My name is Lin Qianqian. I'm 13 years old. I have a little brother named Lin Yulong. He's 9. We lost our mother, and our father remarried a woman named Ding Yuxiang. She hates us. To her, we are just burdens, leftover children from a dead woman. That day, under the old pagoda tree at the village entrance, my stepmother was beating my brother. She kicked him over and over while he lay face down in the dirt. His nose and mouth were full of mud. He didn't cry. He didn't make a sound. He just clenched his fists so hard that his nails cut into his palms and blood dripped between his fingers. She called him a wild bastard. She said she should beat him to death. The reason? He had stood up to her daughter, Yuan. My brother is tough. I once told him, never cry in front of outsiders. Crying means you've lost. So he held it all in, even though his back felt like it was breaking and he was coughing up the taste of blood. Then my stepmother said the cruelest thing. If you touch my daughter again, I'll sell your sister to a fool. She met me. She threatened to sell me off. That made something snap inside Yulong. He looked up at her with a terrifying stare, a 9-year-old boy with murder in his eyes. She flinched for a moment, but then she hit him even harder. She twisted the soft skin on the inside of his arm, digging her nails in until she tore out bloody marks. He wanted to fight back. I know he did. He's thought about it 1,000 times. But he never does, not because he's afraid of her. He's afraid that if he fights back, she'll take it out on me. He knows I'm soft. He knows I would never hit anyone back. He knows that if I found out he got beaten because of me, I'd cry alone at night, even if I smiled during the day. So he held his fists and bled in silence. A neighbor boy, Ding Xiaohu, only 10 years old, tried to stop her. He yelled, "Stop. You'll kill him." She slapped him away without even looking. Xiaohu saw how bad it was. Yulong's face swollen, blood on his lips, bruises everywhere, and he ran to find me. I was up on the mountain, digging wild vegetables. He lost a shoe on the way, but didn't stop. He screamed my name across the hills. "Qianqian, Yulong is being beaten to death. Come back." Back at the tree, my stepmother finally got tired. She stood over my brother's crumpled body, dusted off her hands, and smiled. Then she said one last thing. "Remember, touch Yuan again, and you'll end up like your dead mother. Dead outside, with nobody to care." She said, dead mother, like it was nothing, like spitting on the ground. My brother slowly raised his head. This time his eyes were different. Not angry, not hateful, something worse. A calm that only belongs to someone who has nothing left to lose. He said 4 words, slowly, one by one. "Don't talk about my mother." That made her explode with rage. A child daring to talk back to her? She couldn't stand it. I was up on the mountain, bent over, picking wild vegetables. It was late spring, so the good ones were already gone. All that was left were tough, bitter scraps. I crouched there, plucking them one by one, dropping them into my basket. If I didn't fill it, I'd get beaten when I got home. I wasn't afraid of getting hit. I can take it. I'm tough enough. But I was always afraid for Yulong. He's only 9. He's too small. He can't take it. The sun was starting to dip west, and my basket still wasn't full. I was getting anxious, sweat rolling down my forehead. Then I heard screaming from below. "Qianqian! Qianqian! Where are you?" It was little Xiaohu, running up the mountain, gasping for air. "Your stepmother is going to beat Yulong to death. Come back now." My basket fell from my hands. Wild vegetables scattered everywhere. I didn't pick them up. I just ran. I'm 13 and thin as a skeleton, but I ran like a crazy person. Stones cut my feet. Thorns ripped my pants. I didn't feel any of it. There was only one thought in my head. Yulong. Yulong has to be okay. When I reached the old tree at the village entrance, I saw my brother curled up on the ground. My stepmother was kicking him. Then she picked up a big rock, lifting it above him. I screamed, "Stop!" But she wasn't stopping. She was going to smash that rock down on him. Xiaohu yelled Yulong's name, but it was too late. So I threw myself over my brother. I covered him with my whole body. The rock came down on the back of my head. "Sister," that was the last thing I heard. Yulong's voice, tearing apart. Everything went black. Something warm and wet ran down through my hair. I tried to speak, but only a faint breath came out. Then my body went limp. After that, I don't remember anything clearly. They told me later what happened. Yulong dragged himself up and held my head in his lap. Blood seeped through his fingers, sticky, hot, terrifying. He pressed his hands against the wound, tried to wipe it with his sleeve, but the bleeding wouldn't stop. He kept calling me. Wake up. Say something. Please. My face turned white as paper. My stepmother's daughter, Yuan, stepped back and whispered, Mom. She's not really dead, is she? My stepmother kicked my leg and said, Don't play dead, you little wretch. I didn't move. That scared her. She grabbed Yuan and ran. Don't say a word about this. You hear me? They left us there, just blood on the ground, my brother holding me and Xiaohu standing nearby, shaking. Yulong held me and cried. He whispered all the promises I'd made him, that I'd take him to visit our mother's grave, that I'd make him new shoes. He begged me to wake up. He said he'd be good, he'd stop fighting, he'd do anything. The sun was on his back, but he was freezing. Xiaohu ran to get his mother. It felt like forever before she came. When Xiaohu's mother finally arrived, she checked my breathing. I was still alive, barely. My breath was as faint as a strand of hair, ready to snap. She lifted me onto her back and carried me. Xiaohu helped Yulong limp along behind them. Yulong told me later that he stared at my hand the whole way, my thin, bony hand dangling and swaying with each step, the knuckles scarred with cuts old and new, my fingernails still stained green from the wild vegetables. He said my hand looked like a leaf about to blow away. He didn't dare blink. He was afraid if he did, that leaf would be gone. I was lying in the woodshed, unconscious. I didn't know any of this while it was happening. My brother and Xiaohu's mother told me everything later. After Xiaohu's mother carried me home, she stood outside our door and shouted for a long time until her voice nearly gave out. But those rotten wooden doors stayed shut. Not a sound came from inside. My stepmother was hiding in there with Yuan, pressing her hand over her daughter's mouth, holding their breath. When the footsteps finally faded, Yuan's face went pale. Mom, what if Dad finds out? Keep quiet, my stepmother hissed. Nobody saw. Just deny everything. When your father comes home, don't say a word, or you'll never get new clothes again. Yuan nodded right away. My stepmother knew she was safe. My father had left early to work the fields. My eldest uncle's family was visiting in-laws. My grandparents and aunt had gone to the town to see my youngest uncle at school. They wouldn't be back for days. There was nobody in that house who would stand up for us. Xiaohu's mother pounded on the door, shouting, This is evil. You're going to let this child die, but nothing. No answer. My brother was leaning against the wall outside, his whole body numb with pain. He shook his head and said in a voice as thin as a thread about to snap, Forget it, Auntie Ding. She won't come out. She looked down at him, a 9-year-old boy, face covered in bruises, dried blood at the corner of his mouth, and her heart broke. She picked him up and said, Come on, let's go see your sister first. The woodshed was at the very back of the yard, right next to the pigsty. When she pushed the door open, a wave of damp, rotting smell hit her. The room was pitch dark except for a tiny window letting in a sliver of dim light. Rotten firewood was piled in the corner. On the floor was a straw mat, and that's where I was lying, blood-dried dark red all over my face and neck. She laid me in the center of the mat. My head hung limp. My face was white as paper. Yulong dropped to his knees and pressed his forehead into the dirt floor. Auntie Ding, I'm begging you, please find a doctor for my sister. She lost so much blood. I'm afraid she's going to. He couldn't finish. His shoulders were shaking too hard. Child, you're covered in wounds yourself. Get up. She tried to pull him to his feet. He wouldn't move. His forehead stayed pressed against the ground, his voice muffled. Auntie, please. I don't have money, but I'll pay you back. I'll work for your family. I'll do anything. Her eyes stung with tears. She yanked him up. What kind of talk is that? Do you think I'm the kind of person who'd watch someone die? She turned and shouted outside. Xiaohu, go get the barefoot doctor. Now. Xiaohu had been waiting right there. The moment he heard her, he took off running. Yulong sat beside me and held my hand. It was ice cold. My fingernails were still stained green from the wild vegetables. He pressed my hand against his cheek, trying to warm it. "Wake up, sister," he whispered. "I won't fight anymore. I'll be good. Just wake up." Xiaohu's mother stood watching, wiping tears from the corner of her eyes with her sleeve. Before long, Xiaohu came running back, dragging an old doctor behind him. Dr. Zhou, about 50 years old, carrying a worn-out medicine box, panting from the run. The moment he stepped in and saw me, his face changed. What? What happened to her? Don't ask questions, just look at her, Xiaohu's mother urged. Dr. Zhou crouched down, checked my eyelids, and felt my pulse. His frown deepened. After a long pause, he sighed. "She's lost too much blood. I'll stop the bleeding and prescribe some medicine. Whether she wakes up, that's up to fate." He crushed some herbs, pressed them against the wound on my head, and wrapped it tight with cloth strips. I didn't move at all. I looked like I was already dead. Yulong stared at my face without blinking. The doctor wrote a prescription and left some medicine packets. "Boil it in water 3 times a day. Get as much into her as you can." Xiaohu's mother paid him with a few copper coins from her pocket. He waved the money off, looked at the two of us one last time, sighed, and left. She turned to Yulong. "Yulong, your injuries aren't light either. Why didn't you let the doctor look at you?" He shook his head. "Auntie, mine are just surface wounds. I'm fine. Just take care of my sister. I can't afford to owe you any more." She wanted to say something but swallowed the words. She picked up the medicine. "You can't brew this yourself. I'll boil it at my house and have Xiaohu bring it over." Yulong tried to kneel again to thank her. She grabbed him before his knees hit the ground. "Stop kneeling. Just stay with your sister." After they left, the woodshed went quiet. Just the wind blowing past the pigsty and dogs barking far away. Yulong sat beside me as the light faded, watching my face disappear into shadow until only a pale blur remained. He squeezed my hand tighter. "Wake up soon, sister," he whispered. "I'm scared by myself." Outside the woodshed, my stepmother and Yuan had been crouching under the window, listening to everything. Once everyone was gone, my stepmother stood up, dusted off her knees, and let out a breath of relief. Yuan tugged her sleeve. "Mom, she even got a doctor. Where did she get the money? Did she put it on credit?" "Who cares?" my stepmother said, walking back inside. "It's not my debt." In her mind, she was thinking, as long as the girl didn't die dead, there'd be nobody to do the chores. And in another year, she could call a broker and sell me off. 13 years old. I'd fetch a good price. She smiled at the thought. Later, Xiaohu came running in with a bowl of hot medicine. He and Yulong propped me up against Yulong's shoulder, and Xiaohu spooned the medicine into my mouth. Half of it dribbled out, but some of it got down. Then they waited. "She should wake up, right?" Xiaohu asked. "Definitely," Yulong said firmly. Then, after a pause, less sure. "Right, Xiaohu?" Xiaohu scratched his head. "Definitely. Qianqian is a good person. My mom always says heaven looks after good people." Right then, I coughed. 1 cough, then 2, then I opened my eyes wide and stared straight up at the ceiling. Yulong nearly jumped out of his skin. "Sister, you're awake, but here is the truth. I have to be honest about what really happened." I didn't answer him. I stared at the dark, moldy rafters above me, completely confused. Because the last thing I remembered was sitting in a comedy club, watching stand-up, laughing so hard I couldn't breathe. Everything went black, and then I woke up here, in this rotting shed that smelled like mildew and pig, lying on a straw mat. My first thought was, what kind of low-budget film set is this? Xiaohu leaned over and held up one finger in front of my face. "Qianqian? How many is this?" I looked at it and blurted out. 2. His face went white. He turned to Yulong. "It's over. Her brain is broken." I wanted to explain. Who holds up one finger and asks, "How many?" That's a trick question. But before I could speak, a blinding pain shot through my skull, like someone smashed it with a hammer. A flood of memories poured into my mind, so fast it made me see stars. I wasn't on a film set. I had transmigrated. I'd been laughing so hard at a comedy show that I passed out from lack of oxygen, and apparently, I laughed myself to death. And I woke up inside the body of a 13-year-old village girl. Her name was also Lin Qianqian. She had just been knocked unconscious by her stepmother with a rock, bleeding everywhere, on the edge of death. That's when I arrived. I lay on that ratty straw mat, staring at the ceiling, with only one thought in my mind. What kind of miserable life is this? Yulong was still crying next to me, calling sister over and over. Xiaohu was still mumbling about heaven protecting good people. I closed my eyes and took a deep breath.
Fine.
I'm here now. Might as well deal with it. I opened my eyes and turned to look at the little boy sobbing his heart out. 9 years old, skinny as a stick, face covered in bruises, eyes red as a rabbit's. This was my brother, the only person in this broken family who truly cared about me. And the other boy, the sturdy little one, that was Xiaohu from Annie Ding's family next door. Their family had always been kind to us, even back when my mother was alive. Xiaohu, thank you for today, I said, my voice rough and scratchy. Thank your mom too. It's getting late, you should head home. Okay, Qianqian. If you need anything, send Yulong to get me. And off he went. After he left, I reached up and rubbed Yulong's head. My voice sounded like a broken gong. Stop crying. I'm fine. He froze for a second, then burst into even louder sobs, burying his face into my chest. The impact sent a jolt of pain through my wound. I winced hard, but I didn't push him away. I just patted his back. My eyes drifted to the broken window. It was almost dark outside. I could make out the shape of the main house across the yard, bigger, taller, with fresh paper pasted on the windows. Nice and cozy over there. I narrowed my eyes. So you like hitting kids, huh? Just wait. I'm here now, and I'm going to settle this score for the girl who lived in this body before me. I leaned against the dirt wall, rubbing my throbbing temples, and dug through every last memory this body had left behind. The original Qianqian was 12 years old, from Clearwater Village. Her father was Lin Guozhu, the second son of the Lin family. Her mother died 5 years ago, and before her body was even cold, the stepmother Ding Yuxiang moved in with her own daughter, Lin Yuanyuan, 1 year younger than me, 2 years older than Yulong. From that day on, the original Qianqian and Yulong were shoved into the woodshed. 2 meals a day, watery porridge, so thin you could see a reflection in it. Beatings were routine. The insults were worse. My stepmother had a mouth like a sewer. Wild bastard, money-losing goods, nobody wants you. And their father? A complete coward. He saw the beatings and looked away. He heard the screaming and pretended to be deaf. If he had said even one word in their defense, these 2 kids wouldn't have lived worse than dogs. I sorted through the whole family in my head. Old Grandpa Lin had 3 sons and 1 daughter. The eldest was Lin Guozhong, the second was my father Lin Guozhu, the third was Lin Guan, and the youngest was Auntie Lin Xiaohua. Grandpa also had a brother, a great-uncle we called Second Grandpa, Lin Qianqian, who also lived in Clearwater Village with his own big family of 3 sons and 2 daughters. The whole clan lived in one big compound. The main house belonged to the grandparents. The east wing went to the eldest son's family. The west wing was my father's. The back room went to the 3rd son. When my stepmother moved in, the original Qianqian and Yulong got kicked out to the woodshed, and their rooms were handed over to her and Yuanyuan. Once I had all this sorted out, I felt clearer. Outside, the sky had gone completely dark. The courtyard gate creaked. That was my father, Lin Guozhu, coming home. He'd been working the fields all day. He leaned his hoe against the wall, shook the dirt off his clothes, knocked the pebbles out of his shoes, and walked into the yard. The courtyard was strangely quiet that night. The main house was dark. Grandpa and Grandma had taken Annie Xiaohua to visit my youngest uncle at school in town. They wouldn't be back for days. The east wing was dark too. Uncle Guozhong's family was staying at his in-laws' place. My father stood in the yard for a moment, sensing something was off about the silence. But he didn't think too hard about it. He walked toward his room. When he passed the woodshed, his steps paused. It was pitch black inside. He opened his mouth, maybe to call out to us, then closed it again. He went inside his own room. In the woodshed, Yulong heard the footsteps and shot upright. Dad's home. He was covered in injuries, but he started limping toward the door. I'm going to tell him. He needs to know what kind of evil woman he married. I grabbed him and pulled him back. Don't. Sister, his eyes were red with frustration. He's our father. He has to do something. I pushed him back down onto the straw mat and kept my voice low. You know what kind of person Dad is. Is today the first time you've met him? Yulong went quiet. Even if he finds out, then what? I said. He'll argue with her? Hit her? Divorce her? He won't do any of that. It'll end up the same as always. She keeps beating us. He keeps pretending he's blind. And she might even get worse, punishing us for tattling. Yulong's shoulders sagged. He knew I was right. Our father had never protected us. When our mother first died, before the stepmother came, he still held Yulong sometimes. He even bought him a piece of candy once. But after Ding Yuxiang moved in with Yuan, he drifted further and further away until he could watch us get beaten and just walk off. Then what do? Yulong's voice was shaking. Before, it was just hitting and starving us. But today she almost killed you. I can't swallow this. His fists were clenched, his whole body trembling. I looked at him. This 9-year-old boy, nothing but skin and bones, bruised everywhere, pinch marks all over his arms, and still ready to fight for me. Something softened inside me. The original Qianqian hadn't wasted her love on this boy. He was worth every bit of it. I know you're angry, I said, rubbing his head. But we have to think long-term. Telling Dad won't change anything. You know that. He looked up at me, doubt in his eyes. I could tell what he was thinking. He was afraid I'd do what the old Qianqian always did. Shrink back, swallow it, pretend nothing happened. So I leaned in close and whispered, Yulong, let's split off from this family. His eyes went wide. Split off? Like separate households. Yes. Would Dad even agree? I looked at him. Does it matter whether he agrees? He thought about it, then shook his head. No. That man's opinion meant nothing either way. All we need is for the stepmother to want us gone, I said. But she'd never agree. Yulong protested. She loves using us as free labor. Laundry, cooking, feeding the chickens and pigs, digging wild vegetables. We do everything while her precious daughter does nothing. Why would she let us go? Then we force her hand, I said. We stop working. We stop accepting 2 bowls of thin porridge a day and staying quiet. We make noise. And the eldest aunt, she won't stand for feeding 2 extra mouths that aren't pulling their weight. Eventually, Yulong's eyes lit up. Eventually they'll be begging to get rid of us, I nodded. He grabbed my hand, excited. Sister, you're so smart. But then the excitement faded and worry crept back across his small face. But if we split off, where will we live? What will we eat? It'll be really hard at first. It will be hard, I said. I wasn't going to lie to him. No house, no land, no grain. We'll have nothing. I paused, then looked him in the eyes. But Yulong, I promise you, it won't be long before we build a good life. He stared at me. The woodshed was dark, with just a sliver of moonlight coming through the window, falling across my face. Later he told me that my eyes looked different that night. The old Qianqian always had dull, gray eyes, like they were covered in dust. But that night, he said, my eyes had a light in them. Sister, I'm not afraid, he said. Nothing could be harder than this. Wherever you are, that's home. I pulled him into my arms. He was so thin it almost hurt to hold him, all sharp bones. But I held him like he was the most precious thing in the world. Okay, I said. Then that's what we'll do. I lay on the straw mat, going over my plan one more time in my head. Step 1. Make life in this house unbearable. Starting tomorrow. Meanwhile, in the main room, my father was shoveling rice into his mouth. Without looking up, he asked, Has everyone eaten? Yes, my stepmother answered smoothly. She wasn't lying. She and her daughter had eaten. Whether the 2 kids in the woodshed had eaten, that was none of her concern. Starving us was the point. A few missed meals, and we'd learn who was in charge. My father didn't ask anything more. He finished eating, set the bowl on the stove, wiped his mouth, and heard the courtyard gate open. Grandpa and Grandma were back, along with Annie Xiaohua. She was complaining loudly about the road and her twisted ankle. Grandma fussed over her like she was made of glass. Grandpa grumbled behind them. My father went to the main house, exchanged a few words with his parents, then went to bed. Not once, not a single time, did anyone mention the two children in the woodshed. Nobody knew I was lying there with a bandage around my head, stomach burning with acid from hunger. My belly growled. Yulong's ears were sharp. He caught it right away. Sister, are you hungry? I'll go find you something to eat. I pulled him back. Don't. If they catch you, you'll get beaten again. But I can handle it. I cut him off. Yulong, are you hungry? He shook his head so fast it was almost funny. No, I'm not hungry at all. He was lying. His last meal had been a single bowl of watery porridge that morning, so thin you could see through it. Nothing at lunch. Nothing at dinner. His stomach must have been eating itself. But he wouldn't say so. Because if he did, he knew I'd give him my share. The woodshed went quiet. Outside, the wind blew past. The pigs grunted in their pen. Then, out of nowhere came a strange sound. Meow. Meow. I tilted my head. What's that? Probably a cat in heat, Yulong said. But it was a weird kind of meowing, sometimes long, sometimes short, high then low, and it wouldn't stop. Yulong sat up. I'll go chase it off. It was pitch dark in the shed. He stood up and immediately tripped over a piece of firewood, nearly falling flat. Careful, I warned him. He felt his way to the door and poked his head out. Under the moonlight, the courtyard was completely empty.
No cat anywhere.
He was confused, until a voice came hissing from the shadow along the wall. Yulong. Over here. It was Xiaohu, crouching in the dark, waving him over. Xiaohu? What are you doing here this late? Xiaohu scurried over, hunched low, and pulled two dark lumps from inside his shirt, pressing them into Yulong's hands. Then he opened his other palm. Sitting in it was a single egg. My mom was worried you'd go hungry. She figured your stepmother wouldn't feed you. These are flatbreads. And this, he held up the egg. My mom said Qianqian's hurt bad. She needs something to build her strength. Yulong stared at that egg like it was a piece of gold. His hands were shaking. Thank your mom. We'll pay her back. I promise. Oh, shut up about paying back. Xiaohu punched his shoulder lightly. Just take it. I was out here meowing for ages, and you wouldn't come out. Yulong blinked, then couldn't help but laugh. That wild cat was you? I thought some stray was yowling out there. You little. Xiaohu pretended to smack him, then quickly pulled his hand back, remembering the bruises. I was trying not to get caught by your stepmother. All right, I'm leaving. Get back inside. He ducked low and slipped away along the wall, disappearing into the shadows. Yulong crept back into the woodshed, quiet as a mouse, holding the flatbreads and the egg. Did you chase it off? What color was the cat? I asked. It wasn't a cat at all, he laughed softly. It was Xiaohu. He brought us food. He pressed the flatbreads into my hands. They were still a little warm. I was truly starving. Xiaohu's timing couldn't have been better. I was about to bite into one when Yulong held out his other hand. There in his palm sat the egg, glowing pale white in the sliver of moonlight coming through the window crack. My eyes went wide. Where did you get an egg? Did you steal it? Are you trying to get killed? If Grandma finds out, she'll beat you to death. Put it back. I knew Grandma Lin's temper. In these times, eggs were precious. The family saved them to trade for salt and other necessities. If anyone touched a single egg, that old woman would curse you so hard your ancestors would climb out of their graves. I wasn't fully healed yet, and I didn't want Yulong getting beaten again. It wasn't that I was terrified of Grandma, but you have to pick your battles, and now is not the time to make enemies. I didn't steal it, Yulong said quickly. Auntie Ding gave it to us. Just eat it, sister. I froze. Auntie Ding, Xiaohu's mother. She had 3 growing boys of her own, and barely enough food to go around. And she'd given us an egg? Yulong had already peeled the shell off. The smooth white of the egg gleamed in the dim light. He held it up to my mouth. Eat, sister. I looked at the egg, then at him. His eyes were locked on it, and I saw his throat move. He was swallowing hard.
He wanted it badly.
But I didn't refuse. My body was badly hurt. I'd lost too much blood. I genuinely needed it. I opened my mouth and ate the egg. The white was smooth and tender, the yolk rich and warm. As I swallowed, I almost cried. My very first real meal since arriving in this world, and it was a single egg. After the egg, I started on a flatbread. That was a different story entirely. It was dark and coarse, mixed with some kind of grain husk that scratched my throat and was nearly impossible to swallow. I chewed and barely got one bite down. Yulong, on the other hand, was devouring his like it was the finest meal he'd ever had, wolfing it down without a pause. Watching him made my heart ache. If he ate this terrible bread like it was a feast, what had his normal meals been like? Probably 10 times worse. I took 2 bites of my flatbread and held the rest out to him. I'm full. Finish this for me. He waved his hands frantically. No, I've had enough. You eat it. Yulong, I really can't eat anymore. He studied my face, decided I wasn't lying, and took it. It was gone in 3 bites. 1 flatbread. How could that possibly be enough for a growing boy? He was at the age where kids eat you out of house and home. But he knew Annie Ding's family could barely feed themselves. 3 hungry boys, and never enough grain. 2 flatbreads and an egg from her. That was an enormous kindness. I leaned against the wall and watched him eat in the moonlight. 9 years old, so thin his chin had gone sharp, face mottled with bruises, yet eating like a little wolf cub, practically licking his fingers clean. Something settled in my chest right then. This boy, I needed to take proper care of him. He never complained, never asked for more, never made a fuss. He was just too good for the life he'd been given. I couldn't let him go hungry anymore. Splitting from this family couldn't wait another day. Tomorrow it begins. Every morning in our house started the same way, with Grandma screaming, "What time is it? The sun's already high and nobody's made breakfast. Are you trying to starve me to death?" Her voice was sharp as a needle, cutting right through the thin walls. In the west room, my stepmother rolled over on the bed, pulling on her jacket, cursing under her breath. Old hag, screeching at the crack of dawn. Yuan buried her head under the blanket. "Can't anyone sleep around here?" When nobody answered, Grandma cranked the volume even higher. "Second son's wife. Are you dead in there? Are you deaf?" My stepmother shot upright and jabbed her finger at my father's nose. "Listen to your mother. Is that how a person talks?" My father laced up his shoes with a pained expression, voice meek as always. "Come on, she's old. Don't argue with her. So, because she's old, she gets to treat people like dirt." My stepmother had nowhere to aim her anger, so she aimed it at me. Her voice sailed through the window, straight into the woodshed. "Lin Qianqian, you lazy dead girl. Still lying there like a corpse? Get up and make breakfast." Yulong looked at me, furious. "Grandma yells at her, so she yells at you. Are you just going to let her push you around?" I didn't answer. I just pressed my hand gently against the bandage on my head. The cloth had soaked through with dark red blood. I stood up. "I'll go make breakfast." Yulong stared at me in disbelief. I was still injured, and I was going to cook? He probably thought I was being my old pushover self again. I pushed the door open and walked out. My steps were unsteady, but I kept them firm. In the main hall, my father spotted the bandage on my head. Something flickered across his face. "Qianqian, what happened to your head?" I lifted my eyes, let my gaze slide right past him, and landed it on my stepmother standing behind him. I gave her a look that was half smile, half challenge. "What? Annie Ding didn't tell you?" My stepmother's eyes turned venomous. She knew exactly what I was doing. My father was about to ask more, but Grandma's voice blasted from the main room again. "What are you all standing around for? Waiting for the wind to feed you? Make breakfast." My stepmother grabbed my arm hard before I could say another word, dragging me toward the kitchen. She leaned close to my ear and hissed, "Make the food, you little wretch. Lucky for you that you didn't die. I'll deal with you later." I said nothing, enduring the pain in my arm. Yes, lucky me. And since heaven decided to keep me alive, we'd settle things nice and slow. The kitchen was smoky and dim. I washed the rice in silence, coarse, dark grain. When my stepmother's back was turned, I slipped a handful of small pebbles into the pot. She noticed nothing. There was also a pot of wild vegetable soup and some leftover hard flatbread from the night before. While I was cooking, Auntie Xiaohua sauntered in, holding a single egg. She cracked it on the counter and ordered me like I was a servant. Steamy an egg custard. Make it soft. Use plenty of sesame oil. Then she turned and walked out without another word. My stepmother eyed that egg with jealousy and muttered, "Of course, the old woman only spoils her own daughter. Doesn't even see how many mouths there are to feed." Then she glanced at me and snapped, "What are you staring at? Think you deserve to eat eggs? Tend the fire." I kept my head down. The flames from the stove made my cheeks burn, but inside I felt ice cold. These people called themselves family, but our neighbors treated us better than our own blood. Steam an egg custard? I'll steam your head. I got up and said I needed to fetch firewood from outside the yard. When I came back, my arms were piled high with wood, but the egg that had been tucked inside my shirt was gone. In the kitchen, Auntie Xiaohua was already waiting impatiently. The second she saw me, she snapped, "Where's my egg custard, you useless girl?" I set the firewood down by the stove, panting, and said sweetly, "It's ready, Auntie. You'd better serve it yourself before it gets overcooked." She seemed pleased that I was being so obedient for once. She strutted over and lifted the pot lid. Inside, nothing but dark rice and a few buns.
No steam. No egg custard.
Nothing. "Where's my egg custard?" she shrieked. "Where is it?" I shrank back, face pale, lips trembling. I really don't know. I put it in the pot to steam. Then I went to get firewood. Auntie Ding was. She was here the whole time. My voice trailed off. Tears started rolling down my cheeks. My stepmother's face turned green. "What are you saying? That I ate it?" I didn't say that. I shook like a leaf. "It was definitely you." Auntie Xiaohua grabbed my stepmother's sleeve. "You've always been jealous that Mom treats me better. You couldn't stand seeing me have something nice." My stepmother was furious. She grabbed my ear and twisted it. "You little wretch, talk. Did you eat it and blame me?" "Ow. It hurts." I sobbed, crying my heart out.
I didn't eat it. It was.
"You were the one who said Grandma plays favorites, that she only gives things to Auntie and never to Yuan." I stopped mid-sentence and clapped my hand over my mouth, looking at my stepmother with wide, terrified eyes, as if I'd accidentally said something I shouldn't have. "So that's it." Auntie Xiaohua's eyes went red with rage. She dragged my stepmother toward the main house. "Let's go. Let Mom sort this out. You come in here with your baggage, eat our food, live under our roof, and now you steal my egg." Grandma stormed out, half-dressed, face dark as iron. She saw her daughter and daughter-in-law tangled up in each other and demanded to know what was going on. Auntie Xiaohua spilled everything in one breath. "Mom,
She stole my egg.
and she told Qianqian that you play favorites and she's jealous you and doesn't get any." Grandma exploded. She pointed right at my stepmother's face. "That little broomstar you dragged in deserves eggs? Is she even part of this family? Giving her food to eat is charity enough. Eggs? In her dreams." That cut my stepmother deep. She let out a wail and screamed toward the house. "Lin Guozhu, you spineless waste. Get out here. Your mother just said Yuan isn't part of the Lin family. You'd better explain yourself. If I don't get an answer today, this marriage is over." My father was named, so he couldn't play dead anymore. He shuffled out, looking helplessly from one face to another, mouth opening and closing with nothing coming out. My stepmother grabbed his arm and twisted. "Cat got your tongue? Say something. You promised you'd treat Yuan like your own. She even took the Lin name. And now she's an outsider." He winced and finally squeezed out, "Mom, that was a bit harsh. Yuan has our family name. She's one of us." My stepmother's expression softened for just a second. Then he added, "But you really shouldn't have stolen the egg. Just apologize to Mom and Xiaohua." Her face froze. Then she erupted. "I didn't eat it. I did not eat it. If you didn't eat it, did the egg grow wings and fly away?" Auntie Xiaohua dragged me out of the corner. Was it her? She wouldn't dare if she was starving to death. Every pair of eyes landed on me. I stood there with my head down, shoulders trembling, looking like a frightened rabbit. Finally, Grandpa couldn't take the noise anymore. He roared from inside. Everybody shut up. Haven't you embarrassed this family enough?
Go eat.
Wife, give Xiaohua another egg. Everyone scattered, still grumbling. My stepmother rubbed the bruise on her arm and glared daggers at my back. Nobody noticed that as I turned away, the faintest smile curved at the corner of my mouth. I glanced up at the sun climbing higher in the sky. The show had only just begun. I had no appetite, so I decided not to eat. I wasn't hungry, anyway. As for the egg I'd hidden earlier, I planned to find a quiet moment later to cook it for Yulong. Just thinking about the porridge I'd made gave me a sour feeling in my teeth, with all those little stones I'd mixed in. Anyone who ate it was in for a nasty surprise. My stepmother and I carried the food into the main room, her with the wild vegetable soup and flatbreads, me with a pot of porridge. The atmosphere was still tense from the egg incident. My stepmother forced a smile. Breakfast is ready, father. Let me serve you some porridge. Grandpa nodded without a word. Grandma shot my stepmother a sideways look, still fuming. Then she glanced at my father sitting there like a mute lump, and that made her angrier. This useless second son, completely under his wife's thumb, always protecting a stepdaughter who wasn't even his blood. My stepmother served Yuanyu and a thick, hearty bowl and handed her a flatbread. When it came to Yulong and me, there were only 2 bowls of watery slop left, so thin you could see the bottom. I pulled Yulong aside and whispered that we couldn't drink this porridge. I'd get him something else later. Grandma didn't bother looking our way. She scooped up her porridge and shoveled it into her mouth without waiting for it to cool. Crack.
Ah.
My tooth. She clutched her mouth and spat out a mess of porridge, blood, pebbles, and 1 tooth. She slapped my stepmother across the face, so hard the sound echoed through the room. You made this porridge with all these stones. You did it on purpose. My stepmother held her stinging cheek, face full of wronged innocence. It wasn't me. It was that girl, Annie Xiaohua cut in Cooley. How convenient, second sister-in-law. Didn't you just say you made breakfast? Now suddenly it's Qianqian's fault? Oh, is this because she exposed you for stealing the egg and you're holding a grudge? I didn't. My stepmother's voice trembled. Grandma clutched her swollen jaw and turned on my father. Are you dead? Look at the troublemaker you married. Not a single peaceful day. She knocked my tooth out. Mom, Yuxiang didn't do it on purpose. My father mumbled weakly. Maybe the rice wasn't washed properly, just a few stray pebbles, and you happened to bite one. To prove his point, he took a spoonful of porridge himself, then froze.
His face changed.
He spat it all out. There must be half a pound of stones in this porridge. The room went dead silent. Grandma's face was like iron. What else do you have to say for her? Every single day, she won't even let us eat in peace. She divided the few flatbreads on the table. 1 for Grandpa, 1 for Auntie Xiaohua, 1 for herself. Then she reached over and snatched the one right out of Yuanyuan's hands, giving it to my father instead. That's mine. Yuanyuan jumped to her feet. Yours? Grandma didn't even lift her eyelids. I decide who eats what in this house. Your mother made that porridge. You drink it. Yuanyuan threw down her chopsticks and stormed out. My stepmother chased after her. No manners at all. Throwing things now, Grandma said with a cold snort. Exactly. Second brother, you need to get them under control, Annie Xiaohua added. My father set down his bowl. I'm full, Mom, he said, and stood to leave. But as he went, he tried to slip a flatbread into his hand, obviously meaning to take it back for his wife and stepdaughter. Put it down. Grandma whacked his hand with a chopstick. Eat here or don't eat at all. Who are you sneaking food to, Mom? Why do you have to? Take it or leave it. There's no lunch. If you can handle going to the fields hungry, then go ahead. He stood there for a moment. Then he sat back down and ate the bread, piece by piece. Not once, not a single time, did he ask whether his own son and daughter had eaten. I watched all of this from the side, saying nothing. That was my father. Spineless.
Selfish.
Couldn't tell family from strangers. He cared more about a stepdaughter with no blood relation to him than about his own flesh and blood. If an outsider walked in and saw this family, they'd think Yuanyuan was his real daughter, not us. I finished washing the dishes and took the pot of sandy porridge, the one almost nobody had touched, out to feed the chickens. They didn't mind the stones at all. They flapped their wings and fought each other for every grain. I glanced over at the west wing. Yuan hadn't come out. Inside, my stepmother was arguing with my father. What do you mean it wasn't me? I didn't put those stones in. Her voice cut through the window, sharp as a blade. Everyone takes their anger out on me, and you just stand there like a mute. You can't even say one word for me and Yuan. Come on, it's not that bad. My father mumbled. Mom lost a tooth, though. Next time, wash the rice more carefully. Is that what I'm talking about? Her voice climbed higher. You just ate by yourself. The flatbread. You didn't even think to save a bite for us. What's the point of being married to you if we can't even get a meal? I tried to bring one back. But he trailed off. After a long pause, he managed. Just find something to eat on your own. Once Mom calms down, this'll blow over. Find something? Where? Should I go dig wild vegetables? She laughed bitterly, then turned her aim on me. That lazy girl is just sitting around. She should be out digging vegetables. I heard every word from outside. My hands kept working. My face showed nothing. Then, for once, my father pushed back. Qianqian's hurt badly. She can't go digging anything. He lowered his voice. Her head. What actually happened? A beat of silence. My stepmother's heart must have skipped, but her voice stayed casual. Who knows? Probably tripped and fell on her own. That girl's always causing trouble. Yuan heard it all but kept quiet. My father sighed.
Then.
Maybe Yuan could go pick some vegetables. What? My stepmother's voice shot up. Send my Yuan out to dig vegetables? In this wind? She can't handle that kind of hardship. Then, just hold on, I guess, my father said, defeated. If you're hungry, drink more water. The room went quiet. A moment later, he came out with his hoe over his shoulder, head down, heading for the fields. He paused when he passed me. His lips moved like he wanted to say something, but nothing came out.
He just walked away.
I watched his back disappear through the gate, then turned back to my chickens. As I finished feeding them, an idea popped into my head. My plan with the pebbles and the porridge this morning had been meant to get Grandma angry at me, so angry that I could use the fight to push for splitting off from the family. But my stepmother had accidentally taken the blame instead, absorbing all of Grandma's fury for me. So I needed to do something bigger. I looked at the chickens pecking happily in the yard. These chickens were Grandma's most prized possessions. She guarded every single egg like it was her own eyeball. If I killed one of her chickens, I pictured Grandma's face when she found out, and the corner of my mouth curved up. I'd wait until noon, when everyone was napping. By the time they discovered it, it would be too late. My mind was made up. I dusted off my hands and was about to head back to the woodshed when Grandma's voice came from behind me. Qianqian, go up the mountain and dig some wild vegetables. This house has too many mouths to feed. We can't afford to keep people who eat for free. Those last words were aimed squarely at the West Wing, at my stepmother and Yuan. Grandma was cursing them without naming them directly.
Perfect.
I'd been looking for an excuse to get out of the house anyway. I still had that egg hidden away, and I needed to cook it for Yulong somewhere nobody would see. I'll take Yulong with me, I said. Grandma waved her hand, not caring who I brought, as long as we weren't sitting idle at home. I grabbed the basket and called out to Yulong. Come on, let's go dig wild vegetables. He trotted after me happily. His stomach had been empty since yesterday. I told him not to touch the porridge this morning, and he hadn't taken a single sip. Good thing, too. That porridge knocked out Grandma's tooth. He kept sneaking glances at me as we walked. After a while, he finally said it. Sister, you seem different. Oh, I kept walking. How so? I can't really explain it. You're just not the same. He was right, of course. The old Qianqian was soft. She took every beating and every insult without a word. But now, he'd seen what I did with the porridge this morning. He could tell something had changed. He probably figured I'd just been pushed too far. He didn't know the truth, but it didn't matter. He liked the new me. I could see it in his face. Can I go get Xiaohu to come with us? He asked hopefully. Not this time. I didn't even hesitate. I only had one egg. How would I split it? I was grateful to Xiaohu and his mother for everything they'd done for us, and I'd repay them someday. But right now, we could barely feed ourselves. Next time, I said and held up the egg so he could see it. I'm going to make you something good. His eyes went wide, then immediately filled with fear. Is that Annie Xiaohua's egg? You stole it? I thought the stepmother ate it. Don't do that again. If Grandma and Annie find out, you'll get beaten. I don't want you getting hurt. When I tell you to eat, you eat, I said, patting his head. Don't worry. They won't catch us. We walked deeper into the mountain until there wasn't another person in sight. I gathered some dry branches and got ready to roast the egg. Yulong crouched beside me, looking puzzled. Sister, we don't have a fire starter. How do we make fire? I have a way. I found a flat piece of wood and a straight, thin stick and started rubbing them together the way I'd read about in books. The wood was dry enough, and I worked fast. Before long, a thin curl of smoke rose from the groove. Sister. Smoke, Yulong whispered excitedly. I carefully added some thin twigs. A flame leaped up. I fed it bigger sticks until the fire burned strong, then let it die down to glowing embers. I buried the egg in the hot coals. Yulong squatted there, staring at the fire without blinking. Then, very quietly, he said, Sister, I've never eaten an egg before. I froze. Never? I thought back to last night, when he'd peeled that egg and handed it to me. He'd watched me eat it with those big, hungry eyes, throat bobbing, but he hadn't said a word. Hadn't asked for even a taste. I'd thought he was just being considerate.
But no.
He didn't even know what an egg tasted like. Something twisted painfully inside my chest. In my old life, my grandmother used to nag me every day to eat more eggs. I'd get annoyed with her. Now, if my grandmother knew I was dead, how heartbroken would she be? I looked at this scrawny little boy beside me. His mother was gone. His father might as well not exist. He'd never even tasted an egg in 9 years of life. And now his real sister was gone too. It was just him, alone in the world. And me, a wandering soul who had taken over his sister's body. I reached out and gently rubbed his head. He looked up at me, eyes bright and trusting. I promise I'll protect you, I said silently. I'll give you a good life. I checked the coals. It's done, I whispered. Yulong got excited, but then he stopped himself. You eat it, sister. You need the nutrition. I had one yesterday. This one's yours. Before he could argue, I peeled it open and popped it into his mouth while he was still trying to talk. He chewed a few times. His face lit up. It's so good. No wonder Annie Xiaohua loves them. Those simple words nearly made me cry. Just wait a little longer, I said, my voice catching. Someday I'll make sure you eat eggs every single day, he laughed. Every day? Sister, that's crazy. We'd go broke. Eating one is already amazing. You're too easily satisfied, I murmured, running my hand over his thin little body. 9 years old and nothing but bones. Clearly malnourished. I needed to split us off from this family and start earning money as soon as possible. It was the only way to give this boy the life he deserved. Come on, let's see if there's anything on this mountain we could sell, I said, stamping out the fire and slinging the basket over my arm. Yulong scrunched up his face as he followed. Sister, there's barely any wild vegetables left up here. What could we possibly sell? Haven't you noticed the village women don't even come to the mountain anymore? The vegetables have all gone tough and old, maybe no vegetables. But there could be other things, I said without slowing down. Like wild game. Wild game, his eyes went wide. We don't have any tools. We're bare-handed. The rabbits up here are smarter than people. Even the grown-ups in the village can't catch them. He wasn't being negative. He was being honest. People in the village used to hunt on the mountain, but they'd given up. The deeper woods might have something, but nobody dared go in there. Let's just try, I said, glancing back at him. Besides, we can't go home too early. If Grandma sees us sitting idle, she won't be happy. That, he understood completely. Grandma was tight-fisted and couldn't stand seeing anyone with free time, especially us. When nobody protects you, you learn very quickly just how cold people can be. We kept walking. I picked a few wild vegetables along the way, but most were old and tough. Only a tiny handful were worth keeping. After a while longer, We still had nothing to show for it. My legs were getting weak, and my stomach started growling. I hadn't eaten breakfast. All I'd had since arriving in this body was last night's egg and a few bites of coarse flatbread. I grumbled to myself. In all those transmigration stories, the main character just stumbles upon wild ginseng or magical mushrooms within the first hour. But me? I couldn't find a single thing worth a coin. I must have gotten the worst script of all time. Sister, are we really going deeper? Yulong tugged at my sleeve, voice dropping low. Past here, it's the deep forest. They say there are man-eating monsters in there. I paused but didn't stop. He tugged again. Sister, how about you wait here, and I'll just take a quick look inside. I turned to face him. I'll be right back. I wasn't scared for myself, but Yulong was too small. If something actually happened in there, I couldn't guarantee his safety. But if I didn't at least look, the curiosity would eat at me. That's how it is. When you feel like there might be something worth finding, you can't help but try. No, he grabbed my sleeve tight, his little face dead serious. If you go, I go with you. Sister, you're the only family I have left. I looked into his dark, bright eyes and felt my heart soften. Okay, I nodded. We'll go in just a little way. If it doesn't look right, we turn back immediately. He nodded hard, but his grip on my sleeve didn't loosen one bit. We walked deeper. The trees grew thicker. The brush got denser. Suddenly a few eerie bird calls echoed through the woods. Coo, coo. And I had to admit, it did sound a little creepy. Sister, this is really scary. What if there really are monsters? Yulong shrank behind me, neck pulled in like a turtle. I wanted to laugh. Wild animals were possible, sure. But monsters? That was just something grown-ups made up to keep kids from wandering too far. I suddenly spun around and yelled, "Boo!" right in his face. He nearly jumped out of his skin. When he realized what I'd done, he puffed out his cheeks and pouted. Sister. I patted his shoulder. Boys should be braver. Then I turned and kept walking deeper into the forest. We'd barely taken a few more steps when something white and furry shot through the bushes, and this time, I was the one who jumped. It was a wild rabbit, darting into a hole in the ground. I quickly raised my hand and signaled Yulong to be quiet. He crept over and whispered, Sister, it went into the burrow. We can't catch it now, right? I didn't answer. My eyes were locked on the hole, my brain already working. I kept my voice low. Take the basket and cover this opening. I'll go around to the other side and smoke it out. Yulong's face lit up. He grabbed the basket and pressed it tight over the hole. I crouched down and started my fire-making trick again. I was getting better at it now. It didn't take long before I had smoking wood shavings. I stuffed them into the other entrance of the burrow, added some dry grass, and the smoke poured down into the tunnel. Hold it steady, I said, dusting off my hands. Get ready. Yulong stared at the basket without blinking. We waited. Nothing. More waiting. Still nothing. He glanced back at me, unsure. I just lifted my chin, keep watching. Just when his patience was about to run out, something slammed into the bottom of the basket. Then again. And again. And again. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, I lunged forward, threw myself over the basket, and pressed my stomach over the opening to seal it shut. Sister, you're amazing. Yulong's eyes were shining. He circled the basket, barely able to contain himself. Stop admiring and find something to tie them up. I was on the ground, holding down the basket while the rabbits thrashed inside. He looked around, grabbed some grass, and twisted it. It snapped. He tried another piece, same thing. Then he looked down at his own ragged shirt, gritted his teeth, and tore strips of cloth from the hem. I stared at him. You're ripping your clothes? It's already full of holes anyway, he said, not caring one bit. We'll buy a new one. He reached carefully into the basket, grabbed a rabbit by its hind legs, pulled it out, and tied it up. One by one, all 4, bound tight and secure. We sat on the ground with 4 fat rabbits lined up at our feet. We looked at each other, looked at the rabbits, and even though we were panting and exhausted, we couldn't stop grinning. Sister, 4. A whole 4, Yulong whispered, barely containing his excitement. That's worth good money, I said, smiling. Then his face dimmed a little. Too bad they're not really ours. Grandma will take them for sure. She won't see so much as a hair, I said. I picked up one of the fat rabbits and weighed it in my hand. Can you butcher one? We'll eat it ourselves for strength. The other 3 we'll take to town and sell. Let's sell all 4, Yulong said, shaking his head like the good kid he was. I don't need to eat. If we don't eat, we won't even make it to town. I shot him a look. Stop arguing. Can you skin it or not? I can. I think. He scratched his head. I'm just worried I'll mess up the pelt. A torn skin won't be worth as much. If it tears, it tears. I looked around for something sharp. Nothing but stones and roots. Sister, here's a piece of broken pottery. Yulong dug a shard of a shattered bowl out of the dirt, rubbed the edge against a rock until it was white and sharp. Good enough. You start on that, I said, standing up and brushing off my hands. I'm going to push a little deeper and see if there's anything else worth finding. Sister, be careful, he said, looking up at me. I know. I was already pushing through the bushes. Behind me, Yulong flipped the rabbit over and started working with the pottery shard, his movements slow and careful. A whole pelt was worth extra copper coins, so he pressed his lips together, sweat beading on his forehead, guiding the edge along the skin with barely any pressure. He didn't dare push too hard. I pushed deeper into the forest, and the further I went, the more it felt like a completely different world from the outside. The air was damp and smelled of rotting leaves and bark. The trees grew so thick overhead that only tiny patches of light made it through. The ground was soft under my feet, covered in years of fallen leaves. There wasn't a single footprint anywhere. Nobody had been here in a long time. Then I stopped dead in my tracks. Wild vegetables. A whole slope covered in them, green, fresh, and tender, packed together so tightly they practically glowed in the dim light. I rushed over and snapped one off. It broke clean with a crisp sound, juice oozing from the stem. Perfectly tender. They're not old at all, I muttered, already picking as fast as my hands could move. The ones outside the deep forest are all tough and stringy. I spent forever earlier and barely got a handful. But in here, these could be sold at the town market for a few copper coins. And if I couldn't sell them, I'd dry them in the sun. When we had absolutely nothing left to eat, I could soak them in water and make a vegetable porridge. In the lean season between harvests, even that would be a blessing. This patch alone had dozens of pounds worth, and nobody had touched it. That didn't surprise me. Yulong had gone pale at the mention of the deep forest. Everyone said monsters lived in here, so no one dared enter. But I dared. Not because I was especially brave. Because I had no choice. What was the alternative? Sit there and starve. I picked a big bundle, then made myself stop. I could come back tomorrow. If I picked too much, I couldn't carry it all. Besides, I wanted to explore further. And you shouldn't strip a patch bare. Leave the roots and it'll grow back in a few days. Pick too much, and I couldn't sell it all anyway. No point letting the surplus end up feeding the Lin family. I memorized the path and kept going. The forest got darker. Then, beside a cluster of low shrubs, something caught my eye. Wild berries. Small bushes loaded with bright red fruit, like tiny raspberries. I popped one in my mouth. Sweet and sour juice burst across my tongue, with that clean wild fruit fragrance. I stopped thinking and just started stuffing them in, handful after handful. I needed to fill my stomach first. You can't be brave on an empty belly. Once I'd eaten enough to feel human again, I found a big leaf and carefully picked a whole bundle for Yulong. That boy was going to be thrilled. While I was picking, I heard a fluttering above me. A bird landed in a nest in the branches, then flew off again. I was looking up, trying to figure out what kind of bird it was, when something dropped from the sky and smacked right into my handful of berries. Juice splattered all over my face. Stupid bird, I yelped, wiping my face. Sure, it was droppings. Who just goes to the bathroom on people? Have you no shame? But the stuff on my hands was sticky and smelled like berry juice. I looked down. There, rolling out of the smashed berries, was a smooth, white thing. An egg. A bird egg. I stared at it for a second, then broke into a grin. This was good. I set down the berries and vegetables, craned my neck, and studied the tree. The trunk wasn't too thick, a bit crooked, with branches sticking out at odd angles. It looked climbable. The nest sat in a fork about 30 feet up, looking solid. I rolled up my sleeves, spat into my palms, grabbed the trunk, and started climbing. 2 moves up, my foot slipped, and I slid right back down, landing hard on my backside. I winced and gritted my teeth. Again. This time I was smarter. I studied the tree first, found every knob I could step on, every branch I could grab, mapped the whole route in my head before I started. This time, I made it up. When I reached the nest, both my legs were shaking. I didn't dare look down. I'm actually afraid of heights, but hunger makes you forget everything. The nest was tucked between the branches, shallow as a palm, lined with dry grass and soft feathers. Inside sat a clutch of eggs. I counted them.
9.
I picked them up one by one, tucking them carefully inside my shirt against my chest. They were warm, still holding the mother bird's body heat. "Sorry about this," I whispered. "My brother and I really need the nutrition. I'm just borrowing a few." I hugged the trunk and inched my way back down, not daring to look. Near the bottom, my foot slipped, and I slid the rest of the way, scraping my palm raw on the bark. It burned. But I checked my shirt first. Every egg was safe, not one cracked. Then I looked at my hand. A layer of skin was gone, blood beading up. I sucked on it. Salty and sweet. It was getting late. The forest darkens fast, and Yulong would be worried sick. I gathered up the wild vegetables and berries, kept the eggs warm against my chest, and hurried back. I smelled it before I saw it, meat. Smoky, rich, roasted. My mouth watered instantly. When I got close, Yulong was crouched by a fire, turning a skinned rabbit on a stick. The skin was golden brown, dripping fat, sizzling. A few spots were charred, but it didn't matter. "Sister, you're finally back." He looked up, face streaked with soot. "What took so long?" He set down the stick and came to take my load. When he saw the huge bundle of vegetables, his eyes went round. "So much. Where did you find these? And wild berries, too." "Sister, you're incredible." "Think that's good." I set everything down and reached into my shirt. "Wait till you see this." 9 bird eggs, smooth and white, sitting in my palm. His jaw dropped open so wide you could have fit a fist inside. He didn't close it for a long time. "We'll eat these at home," I said, tucking them back in. "Is the rabbit done?" "Almost." He snapped back to life, grinning ear to ear. "Not bad for my first time roasting, right?" I nodded, feeling a warmth in my chest. This kid was smart and learned fast. Once I started making money, I'd send him to school. He deserved better than growing up unable to read, like the original Qianqian. We sat around the fire and tore into the rabbit with our hands. No seasoning, no salt, nothing. Just plain roasted meat with a faintly earthy taste. But for 2 kids who'd been half-starved for weeks, it was heavenly. The flavor nearly brought tears to my eyes. "Sister, this is so good," Yulong mumbled through a greasy mouthful. "I can't even remember the last time I had meat." We ate 1 rabbit clean to the bone. The leftover half we wrapped in big leaves to eat on the road. "Let's go," I said, standing up and brushing myself off. "We're taking the other 3 rabbits to town to sell." There was only one road out of the village, heading east toward the market town. Yulong tried to carry the basket, but I stopped him. "You're too small." "I'll carry it." He tucked the wrapped meat inside his shirt. I stacked the wild vegetables on top of the basket, covering the 3 rabbits underneath. That way, if anyone saw us on the road, they'd just think we were hauling worthless greens. Nobody would look twice. Yulong walked beside me, carrying the berries in a leaf bundle, popping them into his mouth as we went, his lips stained red. "Sister, are you tired?" "Let me carry it for a while," he said, worried.
"I've fine."
"I'm stronger than you," I said with a smile. I was lying. My feet were raw and aching, my back was soaked with sweat, and every step hurt. But I couldn't let a 9-year-old carry this load. I just gritted my teeth and kept telling myself to push through. We rested 3 times on the way. By the time we reached town, my shirt was drenched and sweat was pouring down my forehead. I wiped my face with my sleeve. I asked an older man for directions to the biggest restaurant in town. It was too late to set up a stall, so my best bet was selling directly to a restaurant kitchen. In all the novels I'd read, Restaurants usually bought wild game. Then again, I had no idea how things actually worked in this dynasty. The biggest place in town was called the Tianfu restaurant. We decided to try our luck. "Excuse me," I said politely to the waiter at the door. "Do you buy wild game?" He looked us up and down, two skinny kids in rags, and his face twisted with contempt. "Get out of here. We have our own suppliers. We don't take mystery meat from nobodies. Move along. You're blocking business." That lit a fire in me. "What's your problem?" I just asked a simple question. "You're nothing but a waiter, looking down on poor people. You're not exactly rich yourself." Unbelievable. I grabbed Yulong's hand and marched away. If the restaurant hired someone that rude, the owner probably wasn't any better. That waiter at Tianfu restaurant stood there with his nose in the air, acting like working at a fancy place made him better than everyone else. "I'm not buying," he said smugly. "Even if you were, I wouldn't sell to you. Not with that face." And before I left, I stomped hard on his foot. "Ow, you little brat. If I catch you, you're dead." He was hopping on one leg, face twisted in pain. Yulong and I stuck our tongues out at him and ran. We didn't stop until we were far enough away to catch our breath. "Sister, he's not chasing us, is he?" Yulong looked back nervously. "Don't worry. That foot won't be running anywhere today." I was laughing so hard I could barely stand. "But if Tianfu won't buy, what do we do?" he asked, getting anxious. "It's not the only restaurant in town. Come on, let's try Tianqian restaurant." The waiter at Tianqian was a completely different person. Friendly, polite, sharp-eyed. "Welcome. Please come in," he greeted us with a smile.
"We're not here to eat," I said.
"We wanted to ask, do you buy wild game? We've got freshly caught rabbits, nice and fat." "Let me check with the boss. We usually have regular suppliers, so it's up to him." He disappeared through the curtain into the back. A moment later, he came out grinning. "You're in luck. Our owner's mother is celebrating her birthday, and they need rabbit for a special dish. The boss says he'll take them." "Wonderful." My eyes lit up. He led us through the dining hall to a quiet back courtyard for weighing and payment. I pulled out the 3 fat rabbits from under the vegetables in my basket. Their fur was sleek and shiny. "Oh, these are plump," the waiter said, impressed. Then an older man walked in, neatly dressed, calm eyes. This was Manager Su, the owner of Tianqian restaurant. He examined the rabbits, turning them over, and nodded. "You're the one selling wild game, young lady?" he asked. "Yes, sir." "What price would you offer for these?" "Market rate is 50 copper coins per rabbit," he said. He looked over the pelts again. "The fur is in good condition. If you sell them with the skin on, I'll add 20 coins each." "Deal," I said without hesitating. "Oh, I also have one more rabbit skin already removed. Would you take that too?" I pulled the pelt Yulong had carefully skinned from the bottom of the basket. Manager Su inspected it. Freshly skinned, intact. 20 coins. I nodded, doing the math in my head. 3 rabbits with fur, that's 210 coins. Plus the extra skin, 230. He clicked his abacus beads, then glanced at the wild vegetables piled in my basket. "Those vegetables look very fresh. Are you selling those too?" "Yes." I nodded eagerly. 2 coins a pound. "I'll weigh it all." The vegetables came to 15 pounds, 30 coins. Manager Su strung the money together and handed it over. 260 coins total. "Count it." I took it with a smile and pushed it back toward him. "No need to count. I trust you, Manager Su." He looked surprised, then laughed. "You've got away with words, young lady." He paused, thinking. "Tell me, will you be able to bring wild game regularly?" My heart jumped. "What did you have in mind?" "Wild game always sells well here. Rabbits, pheasants, wild pigeons, as long as the quality is good, I'll buy whatever you bring. And the price will only go up from today, not down." "Thank you, Manager Su. My name is Lin Qianqian. I hope we can work together for a long time." I tucked the copper coins carefully inside my shirt and patted them. They were heavy and solid against my chest. For the first time since arriving in this world, I felt a real sense of security. "Sister, that's so much money." Yulong's eyes were huge. He whispered, "Way better than that stuck-up jerk at Tianfu." "All right, stop going on about him," I said, tugging his arm. "Let's go. We shouldn't hold up Manager Su's business." I walked home with over 200 copper coins tucked against my chest, feeling like I was floating. This was my first real money in this ancient world. Heavy, warm, and mine. I needed to find a hiding spot so good that not even a mouse could dig it up. If Grandma got her hands on it, everything would be for nothing. Let's head home, I said, swinging the empty basket onto my back. Yulong trotted after me. After a few steps, he remembered something. Sister, we sold all the wild vegetables. What do we tell Grandma? Tell her we didn't find any. I didn't even blink. I had something much bigger planned. Once that happened, Grandma wouldn't care about a few vegetables. Are we going to get beaten? He asked nervously. If anyone tries to hit you, run straight to the village chief, I told him. And cry. The louder and more miserable, the better. The more pitiful you look, the more he'll take our side. Got it, he nodded firmly. Got it. We couldn't let anyone know we had money. Taking a cart home was out of the question. The village women had eyes like hawks. If they saw us coming back from town, they'd practically turn our basket inside out looking for clues. We found a hidden spot, finished off the leftover rabbit meat from earlier, and then walked the rest of the way. By the time we reached the village, the sun was leaning west. My throat was bone dry, and my shirt was soaked through with sweat. Yulong looked like a boiled shrimp. We stumbled through the gate and threw ourselves at the water jar, gulping down ladle after ladle of cold water. I wiped my mouth and listened. The yard was dead quiet. Not a sound. Why is it so still? Yulong whispered. Afternoon nap, I said.
Good.
Nap time was perfect for what I had in mind. I walked into the kitchen. When I came back out, I was holding a cleaver. The blade gleamed white in the sunlight. Yulong grabbed my arm, face drained of color. Sister.
Don't.
It's not worth it. Please don't kill anyone. Kill anyone? I shook him off and walked straight toward the chicken coop. I'm killing a chicken. I reached in and grabbed the fattest hen by the legs. She flapped and squawked, feathers flying everywhere. Yulong swallowed hard. Sister, if you kill one of Grandma's chickens, she'll fight you to the death. I'm counting on it, I said with a smile. The look on my face must have been unsettling, because Yulong shivered. But I asked him the only question that mattered. Do you want to split from this family or not? He nodded. Then do what I say. I shoved the chicken into his arms. You kill it. If there's trouble, I'll take the blame. He looked down at the hen staring up at him with its beady little eyes, then back at me. We're really doing this. Not just killing it. We're eating it too. I looked at him. Don't you want meat? His throat bobbed.
He wanted it.
He could barely remember what meat tasted like. One clean cut across the neck. Blood sprayed across the ground. The hen kicked a few times and went still. I picked up the bird and jerked my chin toward the mountains. Let's go. Get Xiaohu. Yulong sprinted to Annie Ding's house and came back with Xiaohu in tow. The three of us slipped into a sheltered spot in the hills. I got to work, coating the chicken in wet clay, building a fire, burying the clay ball in the coals. Xiaohu crouched beside me, watching the mud-covered lump slowly harden in the heat until he couldn't hold back anymore. Qianqian, where did this chicken come from? Don't ask, I said without looking up. Just eat. When we cracked open the clay, the smell hit us, so hard our eyes watered. The three of us squatted around the fire, tearing off pieces and cramming them into our mouths, hissing from the heat but refusing to spit anything out. We ate until we could barely move, then collapsed on the grass, groaning with full bellies. As the sun started to set, we each headed home. As the sun was setting, everyone headed home. Grandma woke up from her afternoon nap, needing to use the outhouse. She shuffled past the chicken coop on her way and paused. Something fell off, but she couldn't put her finger on it. On the way back, she took another look inside the coop. Empty. Her prized hen, the one she'd raised for 2 years, the one that laid an egg every day, was gone. And there was blood on the ground. Grandma let out a scream so loud it woke up the entire household. Auntie Xiaohua jolted upright from her nap. My stepmother and Yuan nearly tumbled off their bed. What's the old hag screaming about now? My stepmother grumbled, fumbling for her shoes. Auntie Xiaohua reached Grandma first. The old woman was standing in front of the coop, face white, lips trembling, pointing with a shaking finger. My chicken. Someone stole my chicken. There's blood. Who killed my chicken? Then her brain connected the dots. This morning's fight with my stepmother, the argument over the egg. All of it. And her fury exploded. She screamed toward the West Wing. Ding Yuxiang. Get out here. Give me back my chicken. My stepmother had just reached her doorway. Her face crumbled. Are you ever going to stop? I don't know where your stupid chicken went. I didn't take it. You didn't. Grandma's eyes bulged. Then who did? You've been holding a grudge since this morning, so you went after my chicken. I told you it wasn't me. Who knows which shameless thief took your lousy bird? My stepmother turned to go back inside, but Grandma charged after her and grabbed a fistful of her hair, yanking her backward. Give me my chicken. If you don't, I'll make my son divorce you today. My stepmother clawed at the soft flesh around Grandma's waist. The two of them twisted together into a snarling, scratching knot. Divorce me? My stepmother spat back while pinching. That useless son of yours. Who else would marry him? You think he's some prize? Do you have money to buy him a fancy wife from a rich family? Grandma choked on her own rage. Her face turned the color of liver. She despised my stepmother, but the truth was, she couldn't afford to find my father another wife. They kept fighting, neither one letting go. I crouched inside the woodshed, peeking through the crack in the door, and I have to say, I was frustrated. This was not how the script was supposed to go. My plan was simple. Grandma discovers the missing chicken, flies into a rage, interrogates everyone, and naturally suspects me, because I was the obvious culprit. Then I'd stir things up from there and push Grandma into suggesting we split from the family. But instead, Grandma and my stepmother were tearing each other apart, screaming until their voices cracked, hair flying, shoes kicked off, and not a single person glanced toward the woodshed. The trail of chicken blood ran in a clear line from the coop right to our door, like a signpost pointing straight at us. But everyone in that yard had eyes that might as well have been plastered shut. Nobody noticed. Yulong scooted up beside me and whispered, sounding almost offended. Sister, how come nobody's coming after us? I was all ready to get beaten. I shot him a look. You want to get beaten? No. It's just I prepared for nothing. Feels like a waste. I didn't answer. I just kept watching through the crack. The battle in the yard was in full swing. My stepmother was a fierce fighter. I'll give her that. Grandma yanked her hair. She clawed at Grandma's waist. The two of them spun around each other like a pair of angry hens. Annie Xiaohua hovered nearby, too scared to step in, just yelling uselessly. Mom. Second sister-in-law. Stop fighting. Yuan hid under the eaves with her hand over her mouth, shoulders shaking, crying or laughing. I couldn't tell. It took Grandpa coming home to finally pull them apart. Stop it. Both of you, he roared, face deep red. What will the villagers think? Where's the Lin family's dignity? Grandma was panting, hair tangled like a bird's nest. She pointed at my stepmother. Ask her what she did. She stole my chicken. The hen I raised for 2 years. The one that laid eggs every single day. I didn't steal it. My stepmother's clothes were half torn off her shoulder, but she didn't bother fixing them. She stood with her hands on her hips. I was sleeping all afternoon. Ask anyone. When did I have time to steal a chicken? Then did the chicken fly away on its own? There's blood on the ground. You ate it, Grandma screamed. Which I saw me eat it, my stepmother shot back with a cold laugh. Go ahead, search my room. If you find anything, I'll admit it. If you don't, you owe me an apology. Fine. I'll search it. Grandma lunged toward the West Wing. Grandpa blocked her. Enough. All this fuss over one chicken? Think about the family's reputation. One chicken? Grandma's voice went so high it could pierce eardrums. I was saving those eggs to sell. I never even ate them myself. I watched from inside the woodshed, shaking my head. Grandma's fighting power was honestly disappointing. Against someone as shameless and fearless as my stepmother, she didn't stand a chance. She couldn't out-argue her, couldn't out-fight her, and when she tried to throw a tantrum, my stepmother threw a bigger one. Should we go out, sister? Yulong whispered. Not yet. I held his arm. I wanted to see how this played out. It ended with Grandpa saying, We'll deal with this when the second son gets home. Annie Xiaohua went to fetch my father from the fields. He walked through the gate and saw his mother on one side, his wife on the other, both ready to explode. His face twisted with dread. Neither of these women was easy to handle. Look at what you married. Grandma jabbed her finger at my stepmother. She's worse than Sushar. At least that sickly woman knew her place. Sushar was my birth mother's name. My stepmother laughed coldly. Sushar was so great? Well, she's dead. A woman who dies young doesn't get to be compared to me. I'm still alive. That crossed a line. She could insult me. She could insult the living. But dragging my dead mother's name through the mud, I'd been holding back my disgust for this woman, and that was the final straw. I burst out of the woodshed, marched straight up to her, and slapped her across the face as hard as I could. Don't you dare insult my mother, you little wretch. You want a beating? She clutched her cheek, eyes bulging. I'm your mother now. That one's been dead and gone. You are not our mother. Yulong charged out behind me, his small face burning red. Our mother was kind and gentle. Nothing like a vicious witch like you. You two little bastards, you're itching for it. My stepmother lost all control and kicked straight at Yulong. I moved fast. I shoved Yulong behind me and took the kick myself. It sent my small body flying. I hit the ground hard and felt blood leak from the corner of my mouth. Sister. Yulong's face went white. He threw himself over me. I swallowed the pain and gave him a quick look, the signal.
Cry.
He understood instantly. He sat on the ground and started wailing at the top of his lungs. Sister, don't leave me. The stepmother is trying to kill us. His cries were sharp and piercing. Within moments, neighbors came running. The yard entrance was packed with onlookers. Auntie Ding, Xiaohu's mother, pushed through the crowd and saw the blood at the corner of my mouth. Her face darkened immediately. Ding Yuxiang, that's way too harsh. Qianqian is just a child. How could you hit her that hard? My stepmother scrambled to defend herself, tears still on her face, playing the victim. I didn't. She did it on purpose. She made you kick her until she bled. Zhao Er's wife cut in with a sharp laugh, loud enough for the whole crowd to hear. You think we're all blind? You lie to our faces right in front of us. Who knows what you do to these motherless children behind closed doors? My stepmother switched masks in an instant. Tears poured on command. Auntie Zhao, please don't say things like that. Being a stepmother is already so hard. People always misunderstand me. I worry about these children day and night. Hearing you say this just breaks my heart. And then my father. He saw her crying, and his heart melted. He opened his mouth and said, Yuxiang, these years you've worked hard. Everyone froze. Yulong and I just stared at him. For a second, I couldn't even react. Then I actually laughed, a bitter, disbelieving laugh. Dad, you think she's had it hard? I stared him down, speaking slowly and clearly. You're right. It must be exhausting. Kicking us into the woodshed must be tiring. Beating and cursing us every day must really wear her out. Qianqian, you've misunderstood your mother. His eyes darted away from mine. My mother has been dead for years. What have I misunderstood? I pointed at the bandage on my head. Are you blind? Can you not see this wound? Can you not see how much thinner and shorter Yulong is than other boys his age? He's 9 years old. 9. My father instinctively glanced at Yulong. 9 years old. I could see it in his face. He couldn't even remember how old his own son was. Qianqian, you hurt your head because you were fooling around. You can't blame your mother for that. Fooling around, my voice shot up. I almost died. She smashed a rock on my head because her precious daughter got upset. If I hadn't thrown myself over Yulong, that rock would have cracked open a 9-year-old skull. And while I was lying on the ground bleeding, she grabbed her daughter and ran away. My father froze. He turned to look at my stepmother, disbelief creeping across his face. She cried even harder, clutching her chest, voice trembling. Guozhu, I knew Qianqian hated me. Being a stepmother is so hard. When someone wants to frame you, they'll always find a reason. A perfect performance of total innocence. Looking at her fake tears made my stomach turn. I let out a cold laugh. You only believe her. When have you ever cared about your own children? You treat a stepdaughter with no blood relation like a treasure. Fine. Let her be your daughter then. Qianqian. What nonsense. Apologize to your mother right now. My father was panicking. Apologize? I pointed straight at my stepmother. My eyes stung, but I refused to let a single tear fall. I've done nothing wrong. She's the one who should apologize. Just then, a deep, commanding voice came from the gate. What's all this noise? Everyone turned. It was the village chief. Grandpa hurried over, forcing a smile. Village chief, what brings you here? If I didn't come, this village would fall apart from all your screaming. The chief stood with his hands behind his back, face stern. Lin Qianqian, what is going on? Have you no shame, making a scene like this? Grandpa bowed over and over. Please forgive us, village chief. We haven't been strict enough with the family. I'll send everyone inside right now. Village chief, we want to split from this family. My voice wasn't loud, but the effect was like dropping a stone into boiling water. The whole yard erupted. Someone in the crowd laughed mockingly. Split off? A little girl dragging along a kid brother? That's just choosing to die. The village chief frowned and crouched down in front of me, his tone gentle but weary. Qianqian, do you understand what splitting off means? You're so young. How would you and your little brother survive? Listen to me, don't be reckless. I didn't argue. I just took Yulong's hand, and together we dropped to our knees. Our backs were straight. Village chief, please let us split from this family. The chief was moved. He reached out to lift us up. Children, stand. Whatever the problem is, I'll sort it out. He raised his eyes and fixed them on Grandpa. Grandpa hurried over with a strained smile. Village chief, they're just children being silly. Don't take it seriously. Village chief, I stayed on the ground. My voice was quiet, but every word was clear. We're not being silly. We want to split off. We just want to stay alive. I pressed down hard on those last two words. The chief had already started to walk away. His foot froze in midair. He turned and looked at us, then at Grandpa. Grandpa's face shifted. He rushed over to pull me up. Stop this nonsense. The village chief is a busy man. My father finally spoke, his voice impatient. Qianqian, enough. Just apologize to your mother, and we'll put this behind us. Apologize? I looked up at the man who called himself my father. A bitter smile twisted my mouth. I've done nothing wrong. She's the one who should apologize. Slap. His palm connected with my face. My head snapped to the side. The yard went silent. I slowly turned back. Blood seeped from the corner of my mouth, but I was smiling. It was the kind of smile that hurt worse than tears. Be sensible? Haven't I been sensible enough? I asked, word by word. And what did being sensible get me? More beatings. Worse treatment. Every single time, my stepmother dabbed at her eyes from the side, putting on her suffering act. Being a stepmother is so hard. The children misunderstand me so deeply. But she can't just make up lies. Then a clear, young voice cut through the crowd. Village chief. Qianqian isn't lying. Xiaohu pushed his way to the front, face flushed red. I saw it with my own eyes. She nearly beat Yulong to death, and then she picked up a rock and smashed it on Qianqian's head. That's where the wound came from. The blood wouldn't stop. If the village doctor hadn't come, Qianqian would be dead. My stepmother's face changed instantly. This child is making things up. You and Yulong are best friends. He told you to say this, didn't he? I'm not making anything up. Xiaohu stood his ground, neck stiff with defiance. If you don't believe me, look at the wounds on Yulong's body. My stepmother went pale. She spun towards Xiaohu's mother. Auntie Ding, control your son. Teaching a child to lie. What kind of mother are you? My son doesn't lie, Auntie Ding said coldly. But are you going to stand there and tell us those injuries have nothing to do with you? This is our family's business. It's none of your concern. My stepmother's voice went shrill. Nobody wants to deal with your family's mess. Auntie Ding stepped forward. But don't you dare call my son a liar. Children don't lie about things like this. Whether Yulong has injuries or not, that's not something you can fake. You want to look at him. He's a growing boy. My stepmother threw herself in front of Yulong, blocking him. You'd strip a child in public? How would he live that down? Yulong said nothing. He just quietly reached up and unfastened his shirt. The moment Yulong's shirt fell open, the entire yard gasped. Scars layered on top of scars. Purple bruises over yellow ones. Fresh wounds crossing old ones. They covered his thin body so thickly there was barely a patch of clean skin left. His ribs jutted out one by one, looking like they might break through his skin at any moment. This was the body of a 9-year-old child. I stared at him, and my eyes went red instantly. I'd known he was hurt, but I had never imagined it was this bad. Every mark on his body, I would make sure someone paid for it. Auntie Ding's voice trembled, close to breaking. When Su Yunru was alive, she never laid a finger on these children. And you've done this to them. Do you have any conscience at all? Don't you fear their mother's ghost coming for you in the night? My stepmother stumbled backward, nearly falling. Yuen caught her from behind and whispered, "Mom, hold it together." My stepmother steadied herself and forced the words out. Who knows where he goes to play rough? Maybe he fell and bumped into things. That's not my fault. You think we're all blind? Annie Ding pointed at the massive injuries. Bumped into things? Go ahead, bump yourself and show me marks like that. The crowd erupted. Beating a child like this, bullying 2 motherless kids, have you no shame? Her own daughter is fat and plump, while the first wife's children are starved and beaten. And the father just stands there. Where there's a stepmother, there's a stepfather too. Poor children, this is a sin. The voices crashed over us like a wave, each one sharper than the last. Grandpa's face went from white to green. Grandma's cheeks burned. She looked like she wanted the earth to swallow her whole. And my father? He just stood off to the side, head down, rubbing his fingers together. From beginning to end, he did not say a single word in defense of his own children. Yulong looked at the man called father. The last flicker of hope in his eyes went out completely. What replaced it was something cold. Enough, the village chief said. His voice was low and firm. He looked at me, kneeling stubbornly on the ground. He looked at Yulong, standing silent with his ruined body on display. Slowly, the chief nodded. If you've made up your minds, then split off. Grandma jumped in immediately. Fine, they can split off. But there's no money and no land. All they get is half a sack of sweet potatoes. I didn't bargain. Fine. I raised my head, my gaze steady, too calm for a child. But we get the old house on the east side of the village. You can't just throw us out on the street. The village chief frowned. Child, that old house hasn't been lived in for years. It's falling apart. Even if I give it to you, nobody can live there. Village chief, as long as it has walls and a roof, that's enough, I said, cutting him off. No matter how broken. Grandma agreed instantly. Done. Take it. Grandpa opened his mouth to say something more, but when he looked into my eyes, flat, calm, completely decided, he swallowed his words. He sighed. Are you sure about this? Once you leave, there's no coming back. He thought I was throwing a tantrum, that I just wanted someone to coax me, to beg me to stay. I said nothing. I took the separation document and pressed my thumbprint into it. Then I slung the half-sack of sweet potatoes over my back. I gathered our few pieces of clothing. I told Yulong to carry the straw mat. And we walked out of that courtyard without looking back. 2 small figures, disappearing into the fading light of dusk. Everyone go home, the village chief said, waving his hand, and he turned to leave. The spectacle was over. The Lin family's reputation was in ruins. And that chicken, the one that started it all, nobody ever mentioned it again. Yulong walked behind me in a daze the whole way, glancing up at me, then looking back over his shoulder at the road we'd come from, like he couldn't believe any of this was real. Sister, he said carefully, did we really split off? I turned around and saw the disbelief on his face. It stung a little, but I smiled. Yes. It's real. Xiaohu bounced along beside us, chipping in. You're free. But this old house is so far away. It's going to take me forever to come visit. Xiaohu, you're welcome at our house anytime. Yulong's eyes brightened. Really? Of course, I said, looking at this boy who had just stood up for us in front of the whole village. If you want, you can even stay over with Yulong. Then I'm never leaving. Xiaohu thumped his chest, and that made Yulong laugh. It was good to hear him laugh. Xiaohu, thank you for today, I said quietly. And please thank your mother for me. If you two hadn't spoken up, I don't know what would have happened. He scratched his head, a little embarrassed. Qianqian, my mom, and I just told the truth. She was wrong, and everyone needed to know. The three of us walked and talked, and the road felt a little shorter for it. But when we reached the old house, the laughter stopped. It was a wreck. The gate hung crooked on its frame, planks split wide enough to fit 2 fingers through. One solid kick, and the whole thing would collapse. We pushed it open and stepped inside. The yard was choked with weeds up to our ankles. The windows of the main room were just empty holes, no paper, no shutters, just the wind howling through from every direction. Cobwebs hung in thick layers in every corner. The thatched roof was patchy, with gaps showing blackened rafters underneath. Inside, there was an earthen sleeping platform, a Kong, still intact, but buried under a thick layer of dust. In the outer room, a cracked water jar lay tipped on its side, split with several long fractures, but it looked like it might still hold some water after a good cleaning. Xiaohu stood with his mouth hanging open. Finally, he managed. This is really broken, but I looked around and actually felt relieved. Clean it up a bit, and it's already better than the woodshed. I thought about that miserable shed. Wind blowing through every crack, rats crawling over us at night, big fat ones bold enough to steal food right out of our hands. Compared to that, this place was a real house. Broken, yes, but ours. The woodshed had rats at night, Yulong said with a shudder. Big, fat ones that would fight you for your food, I added, already rolling up my sleeves. All right, stop standing around. Let's get to work. The three of us jumped right in. I found a half-bulb broom and swept the dust off the Kong, then spread out the straw mat we'd brought from the Lin house. It was a bit too small, one edge of the Kong stuck out bare, but it was better than sleeping on raw dirt. I'd patch it later when I had the chance. Yulong and Xiaohu worked together to drag the cracked water jar into the yard, scrub it clean, and haul up half a bucket of water from the well to pour inside. The jar leaked slowly, but it could hold enough water to get us by. They cleared out years' worth of junk, rotting wood, broken odds and ends, piles of things nobody could even identify anymore. It all went into a heap in the yard. The pile looked messy, but inside, the house was starting to feel open and clean. I found a few long sticks, tied the broom head onto one, and used it to sweep the cobwebs from the corners and the dust from the ceiling. Gray powder rained down on all three of us. We coughed and sputtered, but when we looked at each other, covered in grime, eyes watering, we couldn't help but burst out laughing. After working hard for over half an hour, the inside of the house finally looked livable. Now we just need windows, I said, staring at the empty holes in the wall. It's not too cold right now, but at night the chill will get in. Before I could finish, footsteps came from the gate. Qianqian? Yulong. It was Annie Ding's voice. I hurried out and saw her walking into the yard, arms full of old paper for covering windows. Behind her came Uncle Ding, carrying a wooden ladder on his shoulder. Annie Ding? Uncle Ding. I stood there stunned. Brought you some paper to cover those windows, Annie Ding said, setting the stack down. She looked around the broken-down house, concern written all over her face. This place hasn't been lived in for years. How are 2 children supposed to manage? My nose stung. I had to fight hard to hold the tears back.
Thank you, Auntie.
You came just in time. Otherwise, we really would have been drinking cold wind tonight. Don't be so formal, she waved me off. Your uncle will put it up for you. You kids wouldn't know how. Uncle Ding had already propped the ladder against the wall. He smiled at us. Heard from your aunt that you two moved out. I came to fix up the windows. Uncle Ding, Yulong and I called out together. He climbed up while Annie Ding passed him paper and paste from below. They worked together like a well-practiced team, and before long, every window hole was sealed tight. Inside, we kept busy too. Xiaohu picked broken bricks and rubble off the floor and carried them outside. Yulong folded our 2 spare sets of clothes and placed them neatly in the corner of the Kong. I repositioned the cracked water jar. It couldn't hold much water, but it could store odds and ends. When Uncle Ding came down from the ladder, he took one look at the wobbly front door, found some wood strips without a word, and hammered away until it was solid enough to open and close properly. That'll do for now, he said, dusting off his hands. Use what you've got and add things bit by bit. I looked at the house, alive now with signs of people living in it, and warmth flooded through me. I wanted to invite Annie Ding's family to stay for dinner, but then I looked at our half sack of sweet potatoes and the empty stove. The words died on my tongue. Auntie Ding seemed to read my mind. She waved her hand. Don't worry about us. We'll eat at home. You two just settle in. There's plenty of time ahead. Xiaohu, let's go. Mom, I want to stay and help. Xiaohu planted his feet and refused to budge. She looked at him, then at us, and smiled despite herself.
Fine.
But behave. Don't make trouble. I never make trouble. He was already rolling up his sleeves, ready for more work. After Auntie and Uncle Ding left, I stood in the yard watching the sky darken. From inside the house, a faint glow flickered. Xiaohu had found an old oil lamp somewhere and lit it. Sister, Yulong poked his head out the door. Come inside. I stepped over the threshold. The room was simple and bare, but it was clean. The straw mat covered the Kong. The windows were sealed with paper. The cracked water jar in the corner caught a tiny reflection of the lamplight. Xiaohu was sprawled on the edge of the Kong, whispering and giggling about something with Yulong. I stood there watching them, and a slow smile spread across my face. Starting today, this was home. We had almost nothing, just that half sack of sweet potatoes. I decided dinner would be roasted sweet potatoes and the bird eggs I'd found earlier. When Xiaohu saw me preparing the food, he stood up to leave. He knew we were struggling, and that half sack might be all we had to survive the next few days. He didn't want to take from us. I grabbed his arm. Xiaohu, eat here. It's nothing fancy, but there's enough. Yulong backed me up. Stay. We've got a bonus course tonight. Xiaohu looked confused. Hadn't we already had a bonus meal at lunch with the chicken? Then the smell drifted out from the stove. Something small and round was roasting by the fire. Are those bird eggs? His eyes went wide. 9 total. 3 each. I smiled. My sister is amazing. Yulong puffed up his little chest proudly. She found a whole nest. The 3 of us huddled around the fire and ate until our cheeks were full. I knew Xiaohu had been craving eggs yesterday when he brought that one for me, but he never asked for a bite. He knew it was for my recovery. Tonight, he finally got his share, and the look on his face was pure happiness. In his family, eggs were saved and traded too for salt, for lamp oil, for paper and brushes so the boys could study. Xiaohu, I said, want to come up the mountain with us tomorrow? Yes. He didn't even think about it, mouth still stuffed with half a bird egg. Deep into the forest, Yulong added, puffing out his chest with a swagger. You brave enough. The deep forest? Xiaohu's eyes went round. Isn't that where the man-eating monsters live? That's just something grown-ups made up to scare kids, Yulong said, waving his hand like a wise old man, completely forgetting that just yesterday, he himself had been terrified to go past the tree line. I couldn't help laughing at my brother's act. I reached over and gave him a light tap on the head. If you two are going, I'm going. Xiaohu stiffened his neck and grinned. Good. Tomorrow morning, all 3 of us. I made the decision final. The sky was getting dark. Xiaohu jumped to his feet. Qianqian, I should head home. My parents will worry. I'll walk you out. No need. He was already bolting through the gate. I could walk this village with my eyes closed. You two get some rest. He was gone before his voice faded. Yulong and I looked at each other and laughed. What we didn't know was that across the village, the news of our split had reached other ears too. Second Grandpa Lin Qianqian, and his wife, Zhuang Yakin, had heard everything. They weren't part of our branch of the family, but they shared the Lin name, and the scandal had splashed onto them as well. Villagers were whispering about the whole Lin clan now, and Zhuang Yakin was furious. Listen to what people are saying about our family, she fumed, throwing down her half-finished shoe sole. The first branch has no shame, but we still have ours. Our boys Guoliang and Guodong haven't found wives yet. If this mess ruins their chances, I'll never forgive that family. Second Grandpa sat on the doorstep, puffing his pipe in silence. Can I even complain? She pressed. He tapped out his pipe, then said quietly, those 2 children. They've got it rough. Now they've split off, and you know the old lady. She probably gave them nothing. We've got some coarse rice left. Pack some up. Take it to them tomorrow. Zhuang Yakin went quiet for a moment. Then she sighed, stood up, and opened the rice jar.
Fine.
We help where we can. She bent down to scoop rice into a small bag, her voice low. We can't be like the first branch, doing things that'll curse our family's luck. Moonlight fell through the window onto her bent back, and onto that small bag of rice. Yulong and I lay on our Kong that night, not knowing that somewhere in the village, someone was already thinking of us. That night, Yulong suddenly turned to me, eyes shining.
Sister.
We have a home. I looked around this drafty room with its single straw mat and broken everything. My throat tightened. Yeah, I said, nodding hard. We have a home. I shook out our thin, worn-through blanket and spread it over the mat. Get some sleep. Tomorrow we're going up the mountain. There's still a huge patch of wild vegetables waiting. We'll pick them and sell them for some money. I lay on the mat staring at the dark ceiling. The wind rustled through the thatch above. As long as we worked hard, we'd get by. I closed my eyes with that thought and drifted off. I woke at first light to pounding on the door. Qianqian. Qianqian, Xiaohu. I opened the door, yawning. You're here early. It's not early, he burst in, waving 2 wild vegetable flatbreads. My mom made these. Eat up so we can go. I looked at those flatbreads, coarse mixed with bran, rough on the throat. But I knew they were precious. Back at the Lin house, Yulong and I couldn't even get one of these between us. After politely declining a few times, I thanked Annie and Uncle Ding through Xiaohu, then pressed both flatbreads into Yulong's hands. I'm not hungry. You eat. Sister, how will you have the energy to climb a mountain without eating? He looked up at me with his small face. I'm really not hungry. I turned away so he wouldn't see my face. Eat them both. Don't leave a crumb. He got surprisingly obedient, and the 2 flatbreads were gone in seconds. We splashed cold water on our faces and looked around for things to bring to the mountain. We were so poor we didn't even have a basket. In the corner, I found a rusty old chopping knife. Its blade chipped in several places like a dog had gnawed on it, but at least it was something. After more searching, I pulled a ratty old sack from another corner. I shook it out, dust flying everywhere. It would have to do. Wait for me. Xiaohu took one look at our supplies and sprinted off. He came back panting, clutching a brand new carrying basket. My mom said my dad just wove this. It was sitting around doing nothing, so she said you should have it. I took the basket. The bamboo strips were still green, woven tight and sturdy. My nose stung suddenly. Other families would sell a basket like this for money. Auntie Ding just gave it to us. I couldn't take it for free. Once I earned some money, I'd pay her back for it. I promised myself silently. Following yesterday's trail, we crossed over the ridge and reached the edge of the deep forest. Xiaohu glanced around nervously. Qianqian, there really aren't any man-eating monsters, right? I grinned. Oh, there are. They're as tall as mountains. Their mouths are big enough to swallow our whole village in one bite. Qianqian, that's way too ridiculous. You're just messing with me. He laughed, and the tension broke. We walked in together, following the footprints I'd left the day before, chatting and joking. When we reached the vegetable patch, Xiaohu's jaw dropped. There are so many. I've never seen this many wild vegetables in one place. Time to work, I said, pulling cloth strips from the basket, torn from old rags. Pick them and tie them into bundles. The 2 boys threw themselves into it happily, snapping off tender shoots and tying them up. Before long, we had a massive pile. I packed as much as I could into the old sack and stuffed the rest into the new basket. Everything was full to bursting. There was no point going deeper today. We simply couldn't carry any more. Let's go to town and sell these, I said, swinging the sack onto my shoulder. Sell them? Xiaohu's eyes went wide. Qianqian, wild vegetables aren't worth anything. I have a plan. I smiled. I led the way with the heavy sack, while Xiaohu and Yulong carried the basket between them. We set off early before the sun got fierce, so the walk was much easier than yesterday. When we reached town, I went straight to Tianxiang restaurant. The waiter recognized me right away. Miss Lin. Back again, he hurried over with a big smile. What have you got today? Is Manager Su in? We picked fresh wild vegetables this morning. He led us to the back courtyard, and soon Manager Su came out. I stepped forward. Manager Sue, these are from this morning. Still covered in dew. Couldn't be fresher. Would you like them? He bent down, pinched a stem, snapped it to test the tenderness, and brought it to his nose. A flash of satisfaction crossed his face. I'll take them. However many you have. The batch you brought yesterday, the kitchen stir-fried them and customers couldn't get enough. I stepped aside so he could see the full sack and the loaded basket. His eyes lit up. This much. It made sense. Out on the regular hills, the wild vegetables had all gone tough and old. What I brought was tender and fresh from the deep forest, exactly the kind of thing that rich customers would pay extra for at a restaurant. He checked the stems once more and nodded. 3 coins a pound today. Keep bringing them and I'll keep buying. Thank you, Manager Sue, I said with a small bow. Whether I'll have more tomorrow depends on luck. I chose my words carefully, not promising too much, not closing any doors. The waiter weighed everything. 50 pounds total. 150 coins. Manager Sue pulled a small blue cloth pouch from his sleeve, counted out the copper, and handed it over. I accepted it with both hands, thanked him, and led my 2 little helpers out of the restaurant. The moment we were outside, Xiaohu burst. 3 coins a pound? That can't be right. My mom and I tried selling wild vegetables before. Nobody would even pay 1 coin a pound. It grows everywhere on the mountain. Why would anyone pay that much? I tucked the money away and explained as we walked. Back then, wild vegetables were everywhere, so of course they were cheap. But now it's late in the season. The vegetables on the regular hills have gone old and tough. Only the ones deep in the forest are still tender. When something is rare, the price goes up. Xiaohu blinked, processing this. Qianqian, how do you know all this stuff? I just smiled. Then I counted out 50 coins, put them in a cloth pouch, and held it out to him. This is yours. We earned today's money together. All 3 of us. He jerked his hand back like the coins were hot. No way. I can't take this. I just helped pick some vegetables. I can't take your money. If my mom finds out, she'll beat me black and blue. I put on my sternest face.
Take it.
Otherwise, I won't bring you to the mountain next time. He looked at my expression, hesitated, then finally took the coins and tucked them inside his shirt. I let my smile return. That's better. I knew Annie Ding's family was struggling. She and Uncle Ding were good, honest people, with 3 growing boys to feed, and growing boys eat you out of house and home. Yet even so, they'd shared flatbreads with us. Flatbreads that Auntie and Uncle Ding had probably skipped meals to save. And the egg. And the doctor visit. And the new basket. I had every kindness written down in my heart, every single one. Now that I could earn money, bringing Xiaohu along and sharing the profits was the least I could do to start repaying them. As we turned a corner, a wonderful smell drifted over. The bun shop had just opened a fresh batch of steamers. I pulled out some coins and spent 12 on 6 fat pork buns. 2 for each of us. Xiaohu held his, juggling them between hands because they were so hot, but he wouldn't put them down. Qianqian, you already gave me money. Now buns too? I can't. You 2 eat them. Am I your big sister or not? I looked at him. When you brought us flatbreads, did we refuse? Just eat. But those flatbreads. Those weren't nearly as expensive as meat buns, he mumbled. Caring about each other isn't a business deal. You can't put a price on everything. I pushed the bun closer to his mouth. Take it. He saw my face getting stern again and gave in. He bit into one, and his eyes went huge. This is amazing. So much meat, but after finishing the first bun, he tucked the second one inside his shirt. Why'd you stop? I asked. I'm full, he said, patting his belly. I saw right through him. A growing boy. Full after 1 bun? He was saving it to bring home to his family. Eat it now, I said gently. I'll buy more to bring back later. No, these buns are too expensive. 1 look for me, and he swallowed his protests. He pulled the bun back out and finished it. After we'd eaten, I went back to the shop and spent another 20 coins on 10 meat buns to take home. Money really does vanish fast. I'd earned 150 coins and already spent 32, just like that. I counted what I had left, 328 coins total, including yesterday's earnings. And I still needed to set up the house. The old place had basically nothing. There was a broken pot that could still work. No point buying a new one. Iron pots were expensive. The chipped knife could hold up a bit longer too. I stopped at a good stall and picked out 4 rough ceramic bowls, a clay jar, a cooking spatula, and 2 small basins. The seller clicked his abacus. 23 coins. Then salt, 10 coins. Cooking oil? I thought about it and skipped the ready-made kind. Instead, I went to the butcher. How much for pork fat? 8 coins a pound, the butcher said without looking up from the bone he was trimming. More expensive than pork belly, actually. I knew why. Render pork fat gives you a lot of oil that makes everything taste rich. Worth the price. 3 pounds, please. 24 coins gone. I lingered at the counter, eyeing some big soup bones. How much for those? Barely any meat on them. The butcher finally looked up. 3 coins and take them all. Done. Yulong and I both needed to build our strength. Big bones simmered into soup. That was the best nutrition we could get. I also got a piece of pork belly. 8 coins. Just like that, 68 more coins were gone. I wanted to buy more things, but then I caught myself. If I came back to the village loaded with too many new purchases, people would start asking questions. Better to take it slow. I counted what was left. 260 coins. Money really does not last. I needed to earn faster. Much faster. We loaded everything into the basket and started the walk home. The basket was so heavy the bamboo strips groaned under the weight. The sun climbed higher, baking our backs. But my steps felt lighter than they had on the way here. I was happy. For the first time in this new life, I felt genuinely good. Before heading home, I stopped by Dr. Zhou's house. I straightened my clothes at his gate and knocked softly. Dr. Zhou, he was sitting in his yard, drying herbs in the sun. He looked up and set his winnowing tray aside. There you are. Come here, let me check your head. I walked over and tilted my head down. He parted the hair near my forehead and studied the wound carefully in the sunlight. Healing well, he nodded, voice flat and matter-of-fact. The scab has formed. I'll take the bandage off today. He went inside and came back with a small pair of scissors. His hands were steady, a few quick snips, and the cloth strips were off. He examined the skin underneath. Once the scab falls off, there'll be a faint mark. Nothing to worry about. Give it a couple of summers and it'll fade. No scar. I touched the patch of new, tender skin and felt a wave of relief. I smiled up at him. Thank you for saving me, Dr. Zhou. I'd save anyone, he said simply. I reached into the basket and pulled out the pork belly I'd bought, wrapped in oil paper, and set it on his stone table. A small thank you gift. Please take it. His face went stiff. Take it back. I don't want it. I knew his personality. Brilliant doctor, but stubborn as a mule and too proud to accept anything. So I didn't argue. I just set the meat down and ran. You little brat. His voice exploded behind me. I didn't look back. I ran faster, grinning the whole way. Xiaohu and Yulong were waiting outside. Xiaohu stared at me, confused. Qianqian, weren't you delivering a gift? Why are you running like that? Did Dr. Zhou chase you out? I caught my breath and glanced back. Dr. Zhou was still standing in his yard, holding the package of pork, looking completely helpless. He's tough on the outside, soft on the inside, I said, laughing. Just has a bad temper. Xiaohu nodded knowingly. Everyone in the village knows that. When patients don't follow his instructions, he scolds them until they want to crawl into a hole. But after the scolding, he still gives them the medicine, and if they're short on money, he quietly lets it slide. Yulong tugged my sleeve. Sister, did he keep it? I nodded, eyes crinkling. He kept it. Dr. Zhou was still standing at his gate, but he hadn't chased after us to return the meat. That was his way of accepting. Let's go home first and drop off our things, I said. Our house was past the Lin family compound, and Annie Ding's place was right next door to theirs. I'd have to walk by, and I didn't want any trouble. I definitely didn't want them eyeing our supplies and causing a scene. I wanted nothing to do with that family anymore. We dropped everything at home, then I put 5 meat buns in the basket, one for each person in Xiaohu's family. That was all I could afford, and honestly, Annie Ding wouldn't accept more even if I offered. Of course, walking past the Lin house, we ran into her. My stepmother stood there with a smug, scornful look on her face. She must have assumed I'd come crawling back, unable to survive on my own. What? One night, and you already regret it. Want to come home? Well, I'm telling you, not a chance unless… I cut her off before she could finish. Auntie, it's broad daylight. Stop dreaming. I walked right past her without looking back, straight through the Ding family's gate. Behind me, I heard her spit on the ground.
Ah,
Just wait. When that half sack of sweet potatoes runs out, and she's dragging that little burden around with nowhere to go, she'll come crawling on her knees. Mark my words, she spat once more and went back inside. We'd barely stepped into the yard when Annie Ding spotted us. Qianqian, Yulong, come in, she called warmly. Auntie Ding, Uncle Ding, we greeted them with smiles. Then she got a good look at us, covered head to toe in dirt. Her face shifted. What happened? Did you get into a fight? No, Mom. We were making money. Look, Xiaohu shoved the coin pouch into her hand before anyone could stop him. Auntie Ding opened it, and her expression darkened instantly. What exactly have you three been doing? We may be poor, but we do not steal. Mom, we earned it. It's not stolen, Xiaohu pouted, looking wounded. Don't lie to me. This many coins? Your father would have to weave who knows how many baskets to earn this much. How could 3 half-grown children make this kind of money? She raised her hand to smack him. Yulong jumped in front of Xiaohu. Auntie, please don't hit him. We really earned it. We sold wild vegetables. The wild vegetables on the mountain are all old and tough. If there were any good ones left, the village women would have picked them already. You think they'd leave them for children? She wasn't buying it. Annie, we found a huge patch of fresh ones and sold them to a restaurant in town. If you don't believe me, I'll take you there, and you can ask the owner yourself, I said as earnestly as I could. She hesitated. Then Uncle Ding, who'd been quiet the whole time, spoke up slowly. Did you kids go into the deep forest? The moment those words came out, Auntie Ding lost it. You went into the deep forest? The grown men in this village won't even set foot in there. Are you trying to get yourselves killed? Annie, please calm down. I'm the one who took them. We only stayed near the edge. We didn't go deep, I said quickly. She wasn't convinced. She grabbed me and Yulong, looking us over from head to toe, like she was checking if any pieces were missing. Just the edge, she says. That forest is full of wild animals. A few years back, the Li family's second son ran into a boar near the edge and nearly lost his leg. And the Sun family's boy, he went in and never came out. And the hunter's son came back out of his mind. Her eyes went red as she spoke, voice cracking. If something happened to you, how would I face your mother? I could see she was genuinely frightened. I took her hand gently and spoke softly. Auntie, I promise I'm not lying. We were just near Eagle Cliff, didn't even reach halfway up the mountain. You know that spot? It's damp, so the vegetables grow well there. Nobody else dares to go, so we got lucky. Xiaohu jumped in. That's right. The restaurant owner even said our vegetables were 10 times better than what you find anywhere else. Mom, if you don't believe us, come with us tomorrow and see for yourself. Uncle Ding took a puff of his pipe and spoke calmly. All right, the kids are home safe. Qianqian's always been a sensible girl, not the reckless type. He glanced at the coin pouch in his wife's hand. Why don't you count it and see how much these little ones actually made? Annie Ding dumped the coins on the table and counted them one by one. By the end, her hands were shaking. 50? You kids. Did you strip the whole mountain bare? Not even close. Yulong grinned from ear to ear. The restaurant owner said as long as we bring more every few days, he'll buy whatever we have. Today's price was high, but even at regular rates, it's good money. Annie Ding's face went through a dozen emotions: worry, fear, disbelief, tenderness. Finally, she sighed, tied the pouch back up, and pushed it into my hands. Keep this money yourselves. But next time you go, take your Uncle Ding along. You hear me, Auntie? That money is Xiaohu's share, I said, pushing it back. The vegetables sold for 150 coins total. What? 150. Her jaw dropped. Last time I took Xiaohu to sell vegetables, we couldn't get 1 coin a pound. Like you said, there are almost no vegetables left now. When something is rare, the price goes up. We got 3 coins a pound. 3 coins. That's really something. Hide that money well, or else you're. She jerked her eyes toward the wall separating their yard from the Lin compound. Don't worry, Auntie. I set 5 coins on the table. This is for the basket. Take that back. A basket is worth nothing. If you keep doing this, I'm going to get angry. She pretended to be upset. All right, Auntie, I won't be formal about the basket. But then you can't be formal about these either. I set down the bag of meat buns and bolted out the door before she could stop me. She wanted to chase after me, but didn't dare raise her voice, afraid the Lin family next door would hear and come looking to cause trouble. The evening sun poured golden light across the yard. Auntie Ding went back inside, still muttering. That girl spending money on buns. She barely earned anything, and she's already throwing it around. Uncle Ding tapped out his pipe. She bought them for us, so we eat them. Those 2 kids are running a household on their own now.
We should help them where we can.
It can't be easy. Annie Ding nodded quietly. Yulong and I had just run out of Annie Ding's yard when we crashed right into Annie Xiaohua. She sneered at us. Little brats. Born from a mother but raised by no one. I'd been about to apologize for bumping into her, but the moment those words left her mouth, I turned right around. Sounds like you're describing yourself. Then I grabbed Yulong's hand and ran. You little. Who do you think you're talking to? Her screeching faded behind us. We didn't stop until we reached the end of the alley, gasping for breath.
Sister.
You really are different now, Yulong said carefully. You never used to dare. From now on, nobody gets to push us around, I said, cutting him off. If someone hits us, we hit back. If we can't win, we run. Sister, I'm a fast runner, he offered. That caught me so off guard, I nearly choked on my own spit. Come on, let's go home and eat our buns, I said, ruffling his hair. Sister, shouldn't we save them? We already ate today. His voice was small. He was afraid that once they were gone, there'd be nothing left. Save them for what? You're growing. I'm going to need you to protect me someday. Deal. When I'm big, I'll protect you. He ate his buns with grease all over his grinning mouth, happy as any kid his age should be. He deserved days like this, even if life had been so unfair to him. That evening, Xiaohu came by with another basket and 2 more small carrying baskets. I tried to pay him, but he repeated his mother's exact words. If I paid for these, then Annie Ding wouldn't accept anything from me ever again. I had to give in. Qianqian, are we going again tomorrow? Yes, but we'll need to find a new spot. That last patch is pretty much picked clean. It needs time to grow back. Okay? I'll be here first thing. He dashed off into the dark. That kid, I said, shaking my head with a smile. The next morning, before the sky had even started to lighten, there was a knock at the door. Qianqian, let's go. I opened the door, rubbing my eyes, and nearly screamed at the dark figure standing right there. It's not even dawn yet. Exactly, Xiaohu said, perfectly matter-of-fact. The earlier we leave, the less chance anyone in the village notices. Hard to argue with that logic. We grabbed our baskets, all bright-eyed despite the hour, and headed out. At the village edge, I suddenly stopped and held up my hand. What is it? Yulong whispered nervously. Shh, listen. A rustling sound came from the bushes nearby, like something digging around. Xiaohu dropped his voice. Someone's stealing our vegetables, I rolled my eyes. They grow in the wild. Whoever picks them gets them. That's not stealing. We crept forward and parted the bushes. A fat, round hedgehog was digging through grass roots. Startled by us, it instantly curled into a tight ball. We stared at it for 2 seconds, then all 3 of us burst out laughing. That's it. Yulong was bent over, wheezing. I thought it was Urguzi from the next village. Urguzi wouldn't be out here, Xiaohu said with a completely straight face. Last time he stole eggs from our house, my mom chased him down 3 streets. I crouched down and poked the hedgehog ball gently with a stick. All right, stop playing dead. We're not going to eat you. It cautiously poked out its little head, tiny black eyes studying us, then slowly rolled itself into the grass and disappeared. Let's go, I said, standing up and brushing off my hands. We continued deeper into the mountains, taking a different path this time. The patch from before was nearly picked clean. It would need until next year to grow back. We walked for a long time with nothing to show for it. Xiaohu was starting to lose hope. Qianqian, we've been walking forever. How come we haven't found anything? If it were easy, everyone would be up here, Yulong said in his wise old man voice. I was starting to wonder myself. But then, a flash of red caught my eye, tucked under a bush up ahead. I hurried over and crouched down. Red seed berries. 5 leaves on the stem. My heart started pounding. This was ginseng. Could this really be happening? The question was how old it was. Sister, what is it? Both boys crowded around me. I didn't answer right away. I pulled out the chipped knife from the basket and started carefully scraping the soil away from the base, terrified of damaging the roots. Every little hair-thin root mattered. Break one off, and the value drops. Hold it steady, I whispered. We don't have red string to tie it, so don't let it get away, sister. Is that ginseng? Yulong's eyes were huge.
What?
Ginseng. Xiaohu's jaw fell open wide enough to fit an egg. Keep your voices down. Hold it still. I'm digging. I held my breath, working the knife one tiny stroke at a time. Sweat beaded on my forehead. I don't know how long it took, but finally I lifted the whole root out of the ground, every last strand of it intact. I held it up and studied it carefully. The root head was tight and compact, the grain line steep. This had to be at least 40 or 50 years old. Let me see. Yulong reached out eagerly. Be careful, if you damage it, it's worth nothing. I handed it over gently, my eyes not leaving it for a second. Xiaohu's eyes darted around. Qianqian, think there could be more nearby. Maybe. Let's look. I stood up and started scanning the ground. The 3 of us spread out, hunched over, creeping through the undergrowth. Suddenly Yulong shouted, Sister, there's another one over here. My heart leaped. I ran over, and then I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. What Yulong was pointing at was a big red-capped mushroom, its top nearly as wide as a palm. That's ginseng? Since when does ginseng grow mushrooms? Xiaohu was slapping his thigh, howling with laughter. Yulong's face turned crimson. It was red too. I held back my laughter and patted his head. Good eyes, wrong plant. Keep looking. The words had barely left my mouth when Xiaohu yelped from nearby. Qianqian, come quick. I think this one is the real thing. I rushed over in 3 big strides and looked where he was pointing. There it was, another ginseng plant, even bigger than the first, standing quietly in the grass. Its bright red seed berries glowed in the morning light. I took a deep breath and slowly crouched down. Time to dig. You can't rush this. I traced each root strand with the knife, working the soil away grain by grain. My hands ached, but I didn't dare press harder. One broken root, and the quality takes a hit. After a long, painstaking effort, I pulled it free, whole and complete. I held it in my palm and examined it. This one was smaller than the first, roots not as spread out, probably only about 10 years old. But still, it was ginseng. Sister, how much is this one worth? Yulong leaned in. I couldn't keep the smile off my face. Enough to buy us meat buns for at least half a month. Yulong didn't say anything, but I could see his eyes sweeping the ground with every step, checking under every leaf, walking slower and slower. He was desperate to find ginseng of his own. I noticed, and quietly slowed my pace to stay near him. After a while, we came to a shaded slope covered in thick, spongy layers of rotting leaves. I set down the basket and sat on a tree stump. Let's rest. Xiaohu, take the small ginseng out and let it air. We don't want it going moldy. Xiaohu carefully spread it on a flat rock. Yulong crouched beside both roots, staring at them for a long time. Then he spoke up. Sister, does ginseng only grow in shady spots? Pretty much. It can't handle too much sun. Then, I'm going to check over there. He stood up and headed down the slope. I opened my mouth to call him back, then stopped myself. I glanced at Xiaohu, and he understood. He quietly followed Yulong. They searched for a long time, but found nothing. Yulong came back with his head down, disappointed. Yulong, we're already incredibly lucky to have found 2, I said gently. Exactly, Xiaohu added. In all the years I can remember, Only Ermangzi from the west side of the village ever dug up ginseng, and that was ages ago. Nobody else has found any since. Who knows, maybe we'll find something else further in. That cheered Yulong up. He shook off his gloom. He'd been silly to expect one plant each, when most people never find even one. We pressed on. The forest grew thicker and thicker until there was no path at all. We had to push through dense brush that scratched and cut our skin. Nobody's been through here before, I said, frowning. There isn't even a trail. Behind me, Xiaohu's voice wavered. Qianqian, you think there might be man-eating monsters in here? I snorted out a laugh and glanced back at him. No monsters so far, but your imagination is becoming one. He scratched his head sheepishly and edged closer to Yulong. I'm just saying, it's really deep. I can't even hear birds anymore. He was right. The canopy above had grown so dense it filtered the daylight into a faint green haze. The air was heavy, damp, and stale. The only sounds were our own breathing and twigs snapping under our feet. I stopped, cut away a vine blocking our path, and listened. The silence was unsettling, even for me. Don't scare yourselves, I said, keeping my voice steady. The places nobody visits are exactly where the good stuff hides. Stay close and don't wander off. The instant I finished speaking, something rustled in the bushes ahead. All three of us froze. Xiaohu grabbed Yulong's arm, face white. I slowly raised the knife and took half a step forward. A gray rabbit burst from the brush, bounced 3 times, and vanished into another thicket. A few leaves trembled in its wake. Silence. I lowered the knife and looked back at Yulong. He let out a nervous laugh. Rabbits are great. Rabbit meat is delicious. The tension broke. We all relaxed, feeling a little foolish. Yulong kicked at the fallen leaves under his feet, half embarrassed, and then he stopped. Sister, his voice went tight. Not scared. More like he didn't dare believe what he was seeing. I followed his gaze. There, half hidden under the leaves, a cluster of deep green leaves spread out close to the ground, the stem straight and proud. At the top sat a single bright red berry, glowing like a tiny lantern in the dim forest light. Nobody spoke. I crouched down slowly and brushed away the rotting leaves, my fingertips barely daring to touch. I studied it carefully for a long time, then let out a shaky breath. It's ginseng. Xiaohu's eyes went wide, mouth hanging open. Yulong crouched beside me, staring at the plant. His eyes suddenly looked wet. He blinked hard, then asked in a small voice, Sister, can this one be mine? I looked up at him. His eyes were bright, shimmering with a thin film of tears, but he was smiling. That big grin with the 2 little tiger teeth showing. I couldn't help smiling back. I reached over and flicked his forehead gently. It's yours. Be careful when you dig. Don't damage the roots. He nodded hard, hands trembling just a little, and reached steady fingers into the soil.